Here we are. Another quiet Thursday. Everybody's outside. Yeah, I'm gonna make this announcement now. To next week's session is most likely canceled. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna. I know for a fact I'm not gonna be able to make it to the school, and because of what I have to do, which I'm not completely sure about, I probably won't even be able to get online during those hours. So there won't be. So I'm just for now. I'm canceling class. If I get online next week, it'll be a surprise. But I absolutely know that I will not be at a law school here next week. You know, won't be able to make it. So that's what it is. You know, and I left some here. I actually have a copy of One World magazine. And man, Cesar does this. I write a lot of pieces for him here. I haven't written one for the next issue, but I don't know if I'll be able to do that. I think I see indigo and peace. Okay. All right. Looking forward to see how that OG Press magazine looks in print. You know, that was a nice interview. Enjoyed doing that. Yeah, so I want to give people some time to log in here, ask some questions, and make that announcement that next week I most likely won't even be online next week for any class at all. So I definitely won't be at the school, you know, next week. You know what's interesting is that most summers, in all these years I've been teaching, most summers, they wax and wane. You usually don't get too many students coming into the class in the summer. Obviously, why? But what's interesting is that sometimes, because of show and prove, you end up getting a lot of students, and a lot of students come through. Um, I'm assuming, off the excitement of show and prove, you know. But I honestly, I gotta say, I could be wrong. Everybody could be wrong about their own thing, but I felt like most of the youth that came for show and prove, um, that I saw that were younger, seemed to be from other states outside of New York and stuff like that. And I'm trying to exclude any students that I would know, you know. But usually in the summer months, I'm usually here hanging out. The classes are their thinnest in the summer, and then all of a sudden everybody remembers that they need knowledge of self when September comes around. So they start coming to class, you know. But because I'm gonna be out next week, I most likely won't even be able to get online and stuff like that. Because of what I have to do. But I want to take everybody's questions, everybody's builds. Today's the equality day. You know what I mean? I want people to, if they're under 1 of 36, explain to me, what is your understanding of the word nothing? How important is that? That's like one of the most important builds. One of the most, we talk about all the grammar mistakes that are in 120 lessons, but he likes the devil because the devil gives him nothing is one of the most profound that you could write in there. It's so well written, you know. looks like a mistake. It's not a mistake. You know what I mean? It's not a mistake. Let's see. I can't read everything from there, so let me get closer. Let's see. Peace to the God King. Thank you, Indigo. That's peace. All right. Well, I was talking about the OG press, but the duck down, the feature, because it's not an interview. I didn't. The feature was fun to do. Sky Zoo's the easy one, you know what I'm saying, and they're hard to pick sometimes, the duck down albums, because I'm trying to talk about different things, but I also want to talk about their best albums. So sometimes but we'll see as I go along and stuff. Mikhail, that's pretty intense. Thank you. Okay. But positive thoughts on your supreme recovery, Mikhail. All right. Sam Hill, peace. True self. King, you said today's math is equality. Equality is the state of being equal in status, rights, opportunity. Interesting. Is it in that sense? Yeah. Because we always want to stray away from the idea of equality being equal. But in that sense, though, if we had to say what would be the same in equality in a society, we would have to say that absolutely would have to be equal. Is in the same, because equality doesn't mean equal in everything. But if we're being technical, like what is equal, we would have to say that it would have to be, you certainly say status, rights, opportunity. Yeah. We as the original people have the right to have all these opportunities by taking them and not asking. That's right. We can, under any society, if the society is corrupt, you know what I'm saying? The society is corrupt. One that is not dealing with equality, that has to be remedied. I think all societies, no matter how righteous they are in states of inequality, depending on how far and how deep you look. Depending on where you look, you'll find imbalances. But are these imbalances done deliberately, or are they fault of the underlying structure? Right? So obviously in the United States of America, just like any place, there would be inequalities just based on the structure, the structural system. But more often than not, though, the real issue is that inequality is designed, So, definitely agree with you. I'm bugging here because I had never thought like equality. I have to stress so much that equality doesn't mean the same. That when you put it like that, I was like, well, there are things that must be the same in equality, depending on how we word it, and obviously worded it correctly. It's interesting. Definitely see that. Okay, true self is on vacation. Okay, so in this time, I'll definitely be here at least till 9:00. I always like to give everybody a good 2 hours and everything. So I'll be here until that time. So, let me know. Let me know. Okay. All right. Let me know what questions you have, though. If not, I'm going to go through some things. Again, I handed out a plus lesson to certain students. If I go through things, if people go through previous sessions and they're like confused about something or want me to further explain something, let me know. Let me know. Ask the questions, though. Every class is not fresh. Every class is a continuation of whatever you were learning. So, definitely let me know. You don't have to be confined to what I am talking about right now. You can always ask me about anything else, in you know, in that sense, you know. Equality, I always like to say, is the proper position. When we live out our culture, when we take the internal knowledge, wisdom, understanding, the true idea, the right and exact idea, the creative idea, and use it and apply it to all the realities, right? And that what becomes some type of understanding that is unique, and we decide to share that understanding. It is constructed and shared. Then now we've gone from the inner to the outer, and that is culture. When we live out the culture, that which is outside of ourselves, right? We live out that culture, and now we have a certain influence, a propulsive influence, I like to call it. It's a pushing influence, depending how strong that culture is, with respect to the particular idea that is the knowledge that was used as wisdom and became the understanding. So now when that culture is pushed out powerfully, then what becomes the equality is that you are traveling along with this. So you're pushing it out, you travel along with this, and now you're in this reality, right? This proper position, this balance, this newfound balance. Everything that you create, everything that you devise, everything that you live out is supposed to bring you some type of balance, some type of proper positioning, so that you can what? Well, if we go to the next thing, God, fulfill that reality. In other words, not fulfill, excuse me, but reaffirm that reality of you. All of these things that we're doing now are reaffirmations of who we are, our nature, our reality. So this is what I mean by that, equality. And that's why I never think that equality is the same, you know, right? It is different than the word equal, you know. But as King pointed out, though, in a society, equal has its place, right? Status, rights, opportunity. So these are things that are very difficult for a society to continuously do, even the most righteous. So they have to constantly be like, for example, right? Opportunity deals with the sameness, though. But right, let's attack this more, King. Right? We could say that equality doesn't go for opportunity, because if you give everybody the same opportunity, it takes away the fact that people have earned the opportunity. So people that continually earn an opportunity, right? Everybody that's here that continually earns an opportunity are not the same as the people here that are not earning the opportunity. So do they get the same level of opportunity, the tryouts, the everything, right? So now we have to look at people's life, the situations that they deal with, and properly ascertain. So there's a lot of judgment when it comes to what would be the opportunity when we look at individuals in society, right? The truth is that I think in general, it is so difficult for people to decide, and people are so unwilling to make the difficult decisions of judgment of who deserves opportunity. That opportunity is allowed, not just deliberately done, but is allowed to go to people that have not deserved it, nepotism and things like that, right? Giving it to people that you know and what have you, you know what I mean? Especially because in a society that is capitalist, especially the opportunity is given to people based almost as is always some kind of investment. You know what I mean? Always some type of investment. All right. Let's see what we have here. Malik, peace God. You asked me some questions. I didn't even. It's been such a hectic day. I didn't even get to read through them, God. So let me know if you want. You could paste them in there and I'll build. If you want, I could build with you later on about those questions. I didn't even get to like read them. I just knew that they were there, and I was saving them for a moment when I have. And I know that when I had my private moment, though, I decided to read, and I totally forgot about the text messages and stuff. You know, so my apologies, guys. Most of the time in my life, though, I'm racing towards something. So, like lately, especially, most of my life is freeing up opportunity to create or to read. You know what I'm saying? And I always want to read, but then create comes before that. You know what I'm saying? I don't make time to create. Create usually shoves its way in on my time to read. You know? Okay. Truth, you said peace. Here to look, listen, observe. Okay, that's peace. Malik, you said equality is harmony or balance. Equal quality. Equal quality. Okay. That's a whole thing in itself, though. Like, what would be equal quality? Or exchange or measure? Okay. Fairness. Okay. Just being in a place where we can exchange what's needed at the moment. See, it seems like the easiest degree, math in the supreme math to build on. But the difficulties in it are when you try to apply it to what it should be in today's society. That is not so clear. We see that we're the oppressed, so we know what immediately has to be done. But if you think about it as a society that is already being functional, and now the pitfalls of function of a righteous functioning society, now it becomes more difficult. All right. Self I build. Peace, God. True self. You said equality is, and I'm sure that is a typo. Equality is simply, not simpleton. Equality is simply one, simply two. Right. You meant simply two. Want for others as you want for yourself. I would say no. I would say no. Take away desire from your definitions. That's good for aphorisms, sayings of understanding that are written beautifully because they strike at the emotional chord. But the emotional chord is not a build. You know what I'm saying? Because there are two truths. The devil, for example, people that have a devilish mindset and people that are taught to have that mindset, they don't see equality as people having what they have. Like, let's say this is what happens with the whole, let's say FBA or other movements, so where people are obsessed about reparations and will cutthroat any other original people for that, whatever, right? They deliberately want inequality to get to the level of equality, and that is another inequality that is being added while they get to the equality. So to advocate for inequality until we get to equality is to only further all of the inequality, because that'll never and has never been the way to get to equality. You know what I'm saying? So when you say want for others as you want for themselves, that puts it on the person's desires, though. You know what I'm saying? And remember, what a lot of people want, though, is so distinct that it has very little value if other people have it. You know what I'm saying? Especially in a capitalist society. So, so the mindset veers into all fields. So be wary of putting wants in desires, wants, likes, dislikes in definitions, especially supreme mathematics. It skews it. It skews it. You know what I'm saying? You say treat others as you would have yourself be treated, though. That's a good internal exercise, but it doesn't play out in real life as being a real definition. You know what I mean? Equality certainly can be defined as having balance, King. Yeah, I definitely see that. Mikhail, you said it was painful, but one thing I learned is that the mind is infinite. Sometimes the mind thinks the big toe is still there, but it isn't. I got seconds to do right and think right. Okay. Well, definitely sending a positive energy your way to, get right, build right, and add on. You know what I'm saying? You said, the more I practice being self-composed and balanced, quality, mentally, emotionally, physically, it not only assists me in my endeavors, but also helps to further my children's ability to become more critical and analytical thinkers versus them being prone to emotional whims. I see it. Indigo, you said, I'm definitely learning to be more reserved with who deserves opportunities. Sure. That this thing, it never becomes easy to right? Everyone, yeah. Well, you know what? You're pretty much right, though. So you're not wrong. But On the knowledge day and on the God day, everybody's wrong. So tomorrow, if class was tomorrow, everybody's wrong. Equality can't be based on perception. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no mathematics, no degree in the supreme math is based on perception. Be very careful with that. You know what I'm saying? Truth rules. You said in our alphabet, the equality is father. How's the father equality? Not only is the father the foundation of the, that he's the foundation, the head of that family, but when the father said that, it's about a balance, though. Remember, think about what the father brought to the youth. You know what I'm saying? Remember, he didn't bring them God. They already are that. He brought them the equality. The knowledge of self was what was bringing them the balance, the harmony, the reality that they needed. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's how I see that, in a quick fashion. Yeah. Peace, God.
Peace, God.
Peace, God. All right. Yeah, I was saying that it's been quiet during the often, like usually summer months are the quietest months when I teach.
Oh yeah, everybody's everywhere.
Everybody's everywhere. But sometimes unless there's a couple of weeks after show and prove where they're all like hype off the knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
So Sunez, don't you?
I was just here building. I got online like at the God Hour.
Yeah, I say I was a little high. I was trying to catch you right like as soon as you
Right.
came on.
Word. Yeah.
Listen, God, I got this Wing Chun doll. It's like for kids, like a small one. The walls in my house, I thought it was a bigger one. It was supposed to go to the wall.
Oh, okay, the Wing Chun dummy?
Yeah, the Wing Chun dummy. But my walls are not strong enough to hold it up.
Oh, yeah.
And that's bolted on the other side.
Right.
Do you know of anything? I mean, if we could bring it to the school or how would that work?
I don't know if we could bring it to the school, but we couldn't put it on the school walls.
Without that, yeah, because the school walls are like maybe I don't know, on the fence or something like that, but it's wooden doll, so
yeah. It would get kind of messed up.
Yeah,
with the weather and everything.
Yeah.
Again, if you put some like my dummy, I keep it outside, right? But the body is an iron.
You have an iron body.
Yeah, the body is iron. The limbs are wood, but I cover it up.
Okay.
From the weather. They're made very well, the wood, so like it's not ideal. You know what I'm saying? But even if I kept it inside, everybody complains because it makes so much noise.
Right.
I got. What am I supposed to do? Hit them softly? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Even if I move, when you clang, they clang when you roll on them. So it's a beautiful sound to me, but it's not everybody's favorite.
Everybody's into that.
And I like to train at any hour. Any hour I want to go train. But
because I think it would be dope if we had one here.
Yeah, I would love it.
Yeah.
I think if it goes outside, it would have to be tarped. Like regularly tarped somehow. If it could be covered and stuff. Now, that would be the only issue. That would be the only issue.
I just like put it in your mind. Let's kind of
draw
that up.
Yeah.
Because I don't have nothing in my house that's.
Yeah, because if it was here, I know Subar would love that.
Right. I mean, it's a little smaller, but it's
right. But if they're
it's an expensive dog. Man. I thought it was a little bigger. I mean, I thought I was catching a deal. It was like $350 or something like that.
Oh man, you should ask me because my dummy cost like I bought it for $350.
Bought it for $350.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you the link though. I'll send you the link.
But you have it. It's like it's not attached to the wall.
No, it sets on the ground. So you could actually, it's hollow, so you could put stuff in it. Like if you put like lots of sandbags, it would stay. Which I didn't do that. I just had some extra weights and stuff, and I put it there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's fine. But that works great. But that only cost me now it's like the most. It doesn't go for $400. It goes for less than $400.
Okay.
And it's well made. It's well made.
Yes, I want to have one.
How long I had mine? I've been using it since like maybe 2017.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's and I hit the shit out of that. So.
Hmm.
Mikhail said, equality is sharing one's own life through experiences, experiments, one's growth through his or her own wisdom. 120 is beautiful if applied properly. It's stage after stage, similar to me watching my children grow. Okay. I felt like there should have been some comments there, but I put them in there mentally. All right. Malik said, tell Allah infinite peace. How did they know it was you? Do you have such a definitive voice?
Maybe.
He definitely do. King, you said balance, be in the supreme being with good orderly direction. It's up to us to be the prime example of balance within ourselves and life for others around us to see and learn from how it should be done. Sure, absolutely. There really isn't a moment where we're not an example for everybody, you know? I tell you, I got in this Threads thing because the God King told me. Threads, the Instagram, like their Twitter.
Hold on.
Yeah, that came out like a day ago or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really.
Yeah, because this guy said he was limiting the amount of things you'll see. So like to about 300 tweets. So you know, like if you refresh the page like 3 times, you'll see 300 tweets. Supposedly. So there's no traffic and shit. But I've been having trouble with Twitter for a long time. Like I post shit and it takes forever, or don't post.
I haven't really been
Yeah.
a big Twitter guy.
Yeah, I got them all though, but I don't really. I'm supposed to be a Twitter guy, but I don't.
You say you're supposed to be?
Because I'm a writer, right? I'm supposed to be writing a whole bunch of shit on the Twitter, but I don't really. There's good people on there, but I don't throw as much stuff out there. You know? I usually feel like I'm on Twitter to defend my shit. People who bite, shit like that.
Biters?
Yeah.
You got any trolls on Twitter?
Nah, that's a safe space.
Yeah, really?
Safe space. Yeah, I don't have trolls on Twitter stuff. There's a lot of gods and nerds on Twitter though. They must be blocking and stopping all the trolls from getting me on
I mean, I don't know if this might attract me. Right. He's on Twitter.
He's on it, yeah. I'm on Threads now. You can follow me there.
So Threads is a
Instagram's own like
Twitter
version of Twitter, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. They let you post more photos though. You know how like you could in Twitter you can only put 4 at a time. In there I put like 10. Yeah, so you could like it's like Facebook. You know how Facebook in Instagram you could put 10. Right? You could put 10 pictures in one post. Who knows? If it fills up. It's funny, everything seems so so guided to we're really all just stuck on one thing. We feel like we have these platforms, but it's really all like at their own whim. If they ruin the platform, we have no platform. Right?
Right.
So it doesn't feel like we made something. Because people on Black Twitter they be like Black Twitter and shit like that. And it's just like, yo, you just follow, they just put you in the algorithm and that put you in this cipher.
Right.
You didn't make Black Twitter, that's just the algorithm that placed you in there. You think you're popping in there, Same thing. It's like white people have white Twitter and they're probably having all these conversations that right? Yeah.
I mean, like, it's you gotta like social media is you gotta like take control of your content because you put everything on there
Yeah.
and let them have it, and then they curate the way they want to curate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Cause I'm mainly there to try to sell shit.
Yeah.
Another thing, I'm just you know what I mean? And then I have a Substack, and then I read that Twitter doesn't mess with Substack like that. So when you say Substack or put a Substack link, it doesn't traffic.
What is a Substack? What's that?
Substack is like I don't want to say a blog because I love my work too much to call it a blog, but it's a place people put articles up, and then you pay people pay a subscription to read your stuff.
Okay.
So you could put stuff for free for anybody to read it, but paid subscribers will get access to more stories. So like for me, most of the stuff there you gotta pay to read it. Okay. Because I put long articles. So like if you see an article, it's long. You know?
That's kind of like what's that other thing? Like with films. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank right now. It's like this video site where they, you put content up there. It starts with a P, I think. Yeah, I'll come to you later on.
Let's see what people ask. All right. Peace to the earth, harmony. Look, I was talking about people that make Twitter a safe space. Look, and then harmony gets on.
That project you did with Wall, man, it's kind of got you in another space now, huh? Like
I guess, yeah. You know what space I thought I would be in though, which I am in though, like as far as how it hits me daily, is the way that I listen to music, like hip hop. I just hear it a little bit different though. Like I could hear more of the difficulties or no more. So when you write about music, you're trying to appreciate how people make music though. So I realize how difficult certain things are, like more directly. You know what I'm saying? How hard it is to keep a pocket. You know what I'm saying? How hard it is to keep your voice consistent. You know, things like that. Projection. You know, things like that. These are things that you hear about only if you notice it, if you're there watching people record, which, you know, you don't always get that opportunity. You usually don't always get the opportunity for that. And if people will tell you that. But a lot of MCs, like, they're so good that those aren't problems that they have. So it wouldn't be something that, you know, people love. Like, people are spoiled by how talented certain MCs are. You know what I'm saying? So don't really know, like, how much effort it takes. And even probably the MC doesn't notice it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's something that you don't really concern yourself like that too much though, right? Like in terms of
as far as
staying in pocket and whatnot. Like as a poet, like or is that something you are trying to?
No, I work on it only because it's like a thing to work on. Right? It's a thing to work on. You know what I'm saying? Like I see it like this now, right? I have any form I have for writing he's got to express myself, right? So if I'm expressing myself through that form, you know, on a break beat, you know, on a straight up break beat, let me try to do it like that. You know what I'm saying? You know, so like me and Kamal working on something with True Cypher Beats, and theirs are very, you know, there's a boom bappy, very, you know, very, you know, stripped down. You know what I mean?
You say boom bappy, not just samples or loops.
Yeah, right. Samples, like a lot of like just clean, very clean loops.
No, I mean, because I know that there's a movement going on without without the drums, like no drum.
No. True Cypher is very drum heavy.
Drum
Yeah.
Okay.
And I found too that when the drums are more dominant in the beat, though, I have more of a problem.
Really?
Yes, I have more of a problem.
Why's that?
What the hell? I've only been an MC a little bit. I'm still trying to figure out why I feel that problem, though. You know what I'm saying? So like when I throw stuff at King, though, he's getting me after like a ton of takes. So even King may not be able to like comment while he wouldn't be able to comment while it's happening. You know, because I'm sending him out there in Medina and stuff like what I just did. But that's after a lot of takes. But what I can say is that I can hear if I'm in the pocket better. If I'm the way I want it to be. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing too. You know what I mean? If you're away, put emotion to it, different things, you know what I mean? Yeah. What I definitely try to don't stay as a poet is I don't really try to stay with the same tone. If it feels emotional, I just want to go high, low, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Even if I fuck up the pocket, though, I don't mind. I'm okay with that.
Kind of like Miles Davis, who's like, fuck up is kind of.
Oh yeah, I try to take the good in it though. This is good. Like, but then sometimes, now when I do it now though, sometimes I'll be like, no, it deserves a rewrite because it's not worth it what I just did there. So if it ventures off too sloppy, and it doesn't have a great, if it's not a great enough line, if it's not written that well, it has to be worth it, like what I wrote. You know what I'm saying? So
you really becoming like a real MC now, like a real.
I try to attack it like that. You know what I'm saying? I try to attack it like that.
Okay.
You know, because there's a lot of people. There's so much music outside. I think one advantage I have is that I hear almost everything that's good. You know, so like I could notice if like, that, you know, I can even, you know, it's funny. I hear a lot of verses and I could hear my own influences too. Like I did a song with Kamal. And then when I heard it after he gave it a rough mix, and I was like, wow, I started that just like a Kill Army song. And that makes sense, obviously, because I've heard Kill Army like millions of times. You know what I mean? Like,
you're a fan of Kill Army.
I mean, I've trained like for years. That was all I was training with. You know what I mean? Like, if I couldn't train or I was too tired to wake up, it was Kill Army. You know what I mean? And they only have 3 albums. You know, so you're playing it more and more. You know what I'm saying? And yes, so you can hear your influences. Also, too, Kamal, because he could do anything. He could do everything. You know what I'm saying? And he has so much melody that it makes me think about it more. You know what I'm saying? He has so much melody. It isn't just saying things like in the album we're doing now. They're more boom. They're even more rugged boom bap, but.
I thought the last one was kind of boom bap.
Yeah.
So you're saying this is
I'm saying maybe this one, I would say it's more hardcore. As opposed to saying boom bap. This was very hardcore. Because that's how True Cypher makes them. But he has such great choruses, though. His melodies are crazy, though. And he be on his most deaf shit, too. He be throwing it.
You know, that is just because he does kind of remind me of that in that vein.
He has that. He can do the sing-song choruses and stuff and all that. It's just, people gonna love the way he's doing his choruses. It's crazy. You know? That's like the best thing that... Definitely an immediate thing. Please, God. I do. Okay.
Seems like everybody's becoming everybody's like a musician, a rapper, or some kind of artist nowadays, right? Like, you know, like the social media being so content driven. It's like everybody's stepping into that world of art.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm always teaching and I'm always telling people to always try to, you know, experiment with creation. We're creators, right? The original people. Oh, that's P.E.A.C.E, God. Oh, no, save that, God. I actually have this game. I have that game. Yeah, I have that game. Yeah. I saw it there and I was like, wow, that's a good game. I have it. Yeah. No, I have the game. Yeah. Yeah.
Find somebody to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Kid, here, come on,
No, but so you say experiment with creation.
Yeah, you know,
Experiment with creativity.
Right, your creativity. So, like, if you're writing in your journal, let words flow. Try new words. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like it's whack, sometimes people aren't poets because their words are whack. They don't have enough words.
Well, that's also a person being so critical. I mean, I've been told I have a way with words, right? But a lot of times I try to write some stuff and like, I'm too critical. So I don't really fall in the category of, or at least I don't put myself in the category of MC, poet, you know.
Right.
I guess
I think all of us should try.
So all of us
should try something creative. I think everyone should try writing something creative. You know, it's like the foundation of the class. I said it was reading, writing, communication skills, and one of the main things is for everybody to have a personal journal. And I always tell them, like, focus on the 3 things to write, like builds on the lessons, right? Day's mathematics, things like that, right? Questions, whatever you're thinking about that, but also your life experiences and stuff, to develop an honesty with yourself, you know, a place where you could be honest about that. You know what I mean? If you have to burn the book later, like, I don't know, but like, you know, but also write about and comment on all of the things that you see. I think one of the reasons that we don't have, and I'm saying we in general, we don't always have well-defined ideas. And when you see social media, you can see that people are they usually give an immediate thought and put it out there. It's not a well-constructed idea. That's why I always tell students, I have students, right? And they stop, but then they stop building because they only want to build that way. But they'll build on today's math and throw it on there. And I said, listen, you're not ready. There's certain people I tell them they're not ready for that. Hold that, like, let it develop. Like, let today's degree, if it's July 6th, think about your day's mathematics, July, August, September, October, November, then see what you get for December on that day. That might be better. Who has the patience for that? But that's really how it goes, you know. And I could say this stuff. I could write off the whim. I'm from a different era, so I was an era for where you had to publish it and you can't fix it. You know what I'm saying? It's already out there. It's too late. So I already have that experience of like probably like 5, not even though, it's probably 15 years. It's 15 years where you write stuff, and if you don't like it though, you have to suffer that something shitty is in print. And I first got that when I was in college because I was writing it was bi-weekly and I was writing a column. And I always tried to write something creative. And then I would be like, it would get near the deadline. And I'd be like, man, I don't have shit. And then when I would have a good one, that would put pressure for the next week. I'd be thinking about like, oh, this shit has to be as dope as the last one. So all those things you get practice with, you know, to let it go, to add on. And honestly, the only way to keep doing that is to keep reading. Everybody that creates has to keep reading though, so it foments all of the other activities, you know? So if you do certain things, if you try creativity, it forces you to read more, study more, engage more. So it's going to put you in the reading vein. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Sounds like engagement, because I was watching something with Elon Musk, and he was talking about like the input and output of a human, right? So the input is like 1,000 times more than what you can output.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's interesting. So now you engage and try to engage with what you know is
because you know, it reminds me too. I told this to the god, one of the gods last week. Paramahansa Yogananda. He wrote a book called Our Autobiography of a Yogi. I have it. Anybody that wants it, I can send it to you. But in that book, it's a famous book because his teacher told him to go throughout all of India and speak to all the great philosophers of the era. So, like, for example, he actually spoke to Rabindranath Tagore, who's one of my favorite writers ever. He wrote he's considered a polymath. He wrote countless hundreds of poems. He wrote books, plays, novels that are like movies in India now. Like he was a real giant, beautiful writer, you know. And he also had his own ashrams, like places where they live and they build, you know. So think of like a law school, but they live there. You know, that's what an ashram is. And
law school was once like that,
right? That's why I said that. Yeah. But Tagore, so he talked to Tagore. He talked to a young Gandhi. So like right when he's starting to like throw away the not just throw away not just European clothes, but also Indian clothes, and he's making his own clothes, like that stage where he's just spindling his own clothes. You know what I mean?
Spindling.
Because he made it that far, like he was going, So I think he got him right at that stage where he was getting there. So it's still early in a lot of his thought processes. You know what I mean? But then after he was supposed to get all these insights from all of these thinkers, Yogananda was supposed to go to Europe and build with those. And in the book shows all of his travels and all the things that he was picking up. You know what I mean? And that's his famous book. But there's another small book that he wrote. I think it was called Scientific Affirmations, something like that. And it was one of those books I read sitting in Barnes and Nobles. Like you take little books so you could finish it.
Right.
And I read it there. And he said this thing like, when you read something, like when you read a book, you should be able to write 3 pages to every 1 page. So the quality of input should inspire you to have all these things. Now, that doesn't always happen. Like you could look at a page and get nothing out of it. Though.
Right.
But the point is that we really are like absorbing mass amounts of information, and we don't get everything out. So sometimes it's like the quality. A lot of times the great creators aren't just in their talent of making the creation, but also in how they get output out of the input. You know what I'm saying? Like how much they process, like how much do they get insights, understanding out of certain things, possibilities, That's why writing a journal is so important though, because you're going to miss out so many things. At least you could maybe go back a day through this day or the last few days and think about things, or look back on a book and see what was in it. You know what I'm saying? So, and like a journal, I started to write a journal. It was right then when Dayson had told me about the nation. He told me in 1998. And we was doing stuff in magazines and shit like that at the college, right? But he told me about the nation in 98. I didn't go to a law school in 1988. It was almost like a whole year. Because Dayson was so intent on telling me you got to be right and exact or they'll get a universal beatdown. That's not really the case, right? Like if I didn't know anything, I could have came here and said, I don't know, I'm here to learn. But with Dayson, you're gonna get it,
The way he did it, right?
Yeah, that's how you gave, that's how he was telling me. So I was like, oh, okay, and that's why, yeah. Yeah. So I was like, I was reading all these books, and I couldn't remember all these books. I read Message to the Black Man, and like I was 85, so I didn't really, there's a lot to absorb, to say the least. I read what did I read? I read Afrocentricity. I read some other books. But the big juggernaut that I read, like the biggest juggernaut I read that time, besides Message of the Black Man, was Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. And it was a lot to absorb. So I got a journal. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna write down everything that I want to keep, because what I used to do is I used to be in the library and I used to rip out pages. But I was like, man, this book is gonna be thin as hell if I rip out the things I need. So, and I didn't, I was like, I ain't gonna put all this money and start doing a million photocopies either. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write down everything.
And before PDFs or
before before all that, yeah. So I started to write down everything that was in the book that I found that I wanted to remember or to think about. And then after a while, I started to write commentaries after I wrote it all down. And that became a habit. To this day, even books I own, I write down what I want to remember in there. So I'll write it down. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll comment on it. You know, and I made a plus lesson for that too. If anybody wants that, I call it scholarly notation. You know, and
So this was like a notation on everything that you was reading at the time.
Everything I was reading, yeah. And it became, over the years, it became like the main thing I do in my journal. You know, I have commentaries on what I see, what I think, all of these things, like what I'm studying. You know what I'm saying? I'll write about movies I saw, like if they have thoughts and ideas. You know what I'm saying? And so I keep all of these ideas and stuff, you know, and commentaries. It also made me practice stuff. So if I wrote about a book that was like a D.O.P. book, right? Like D.O.P. book or Sertima, those are scholars though. So what I would do is I would write back I would try to write back as scholarly as it came across. You know? And if it only developed the ability to speak that way. Peace, God. Peace, God. Oh, indeed. That's peace, God.
Nice and heavy. You know, a la sauce. I love y'all, man.
Likewise, God. Yeah, but yeah. So I started doing that in 1998. You know? And
that's a good way. That's a good way to keep up with ideas, because I mean,
what happens is that I don't always go back to old journals. They just kind of stay stuck in my head by doing that writing process. And then now I've written 70 of them. I've written 70 of them. And in that time,
you haven't published any of them.
No, these are just personal journals though. They're in boxes. I just keep them.
Not being published.
Yeah. You know what though? Some of them I can't even read. I write so ugly. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
But obviously the whole thing I would, you know, they have personal stuff in there. Not that.
Okay, right.
You know, right? Beef, you know, niggas have beef with, right? Trolls. No,
trolls and whatnot.
No, the troll didn't get any. I barely write about that. That's more comical to me. But the thing about it though is that in the journals, I wrote 70 of them. I'm on number 71. But I actually spent about 10 years not writing in a journal, because that was when in the 2000s my writing really took off. Like I started to develop it, and I just couldn't figure out. I had this idea that I didn't want to waste my writing. You know, like writing is the thing not to waste. So I didn't want to waste it in the journal, which was totally wrong. Now I have a totally different approach though. Now it's more like, you know, Curry in the gym. I want to take 1,000 shots in the gym every day. You know what I'm saying? Right. So at least the bare minimum, I have to write at least 10 pages every week.
Every week. Okay.
Every week.
That's doable.
Yeah. There are some years where I've written like 25 a week, and that has become, if you do the math, that becomes like 500 pages. You know what I mean?
Right.
But now that I publish so much stuff, though, I'm always going back and forth. You know what I'm saying? And you know, and then writing stuff with Kamal. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of stuff.
So is that 70 composition notebooks or?
Yeah, except the first one. The first one was like 100 pages. It was a spiral notebook, my first one. But then after that, it's all like the classical composition book. Yeah.
7,200 page joints.
7,200 pages, yeah.
Wow.
And there's a lot of years I didn't rank though. So in those
what years were those?
Mainly in the 2000s.
Oh, the 2000s?
Yeah, because I was still trying to figure it out, you know.
That's interesting.
After the fury began again seriously, where I really was diligent with it, was after my second daughter was born. So around 2013. So then I was like, I have to write regularly. But for a few years, I only wrote one journal a year, you know. But then after that, I got more consistent. This decade, I read a lot though, on everything. You know.
You mean from 2020?
since 2020. You know,
Since
like
2020.
I'm a writer and I was in quarantine. So
Mm.
what the fuck happened? What do you, right? We're in quarantine though. What do you? Right? I self quarantine. You know, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right? So like it's always a balance. Like, do I go out and do stuff, or do I? There's a thing, a book. What the hell's the name of it? I always forget the name of the book. Let me do this. I have to get. There's a book by Balthazar Gracian that's very famous. So I'll tell you how famous Balthazar Gracian. So famous that one of Jesus' greatest lines is from it. The art of worldly wisdom.
I think you mentioned that.
Yeah. And that's really what Jesus is quoting when he says the immortality of my fame is the measure of others' torture. Which is such a dope line though, but it's actually not from Jesus. He quoted it. You know? It's from Balthazar Gracian. But that thing that he said in that book where he said 3 things, you spend half your life learning, I guess in study, you spend half of it doing, and then not half of it, a third of it study, a third of it doing, and a third of it writing down what you have done. You know, as a writer though, you're always going in and out of both of those. You're not really in one stage ever. You know, write down what we experience. We go out to get experiences though, but then we have to also keep studying. So it's kind of more of a juggle as opposed to doing it like that. You know? That's why I stopped writing a journal. When I read that book, I was like, okay, it's going to be 3. Maybe it should be 3. Maybe I shouldn't write in the journals and just try to write only creative things. But then I realized it's really a combination of all 3. They're all happening at the same time. You're constantly shifting.
I find the gods like are the illest writers, and even if the illest artists, like because earlier on when I would come around and see or hear God's bell, and I later realized those are manifestations that they wrote down and actually memorized, and now they're out in the cipher performing it.
Right. Yeah.
And it'd be done like, wow, that was there, but he actually instructed that in the laboratory.
That's the thing too. A lot of students too, they forget that one of the major keys is to memorize your understanding. I'll tell them they said something really great and they don't memorize it.
Right, because I find like people just throw out these ideas and don't hold on to them.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how people could memorize their understanding without writing it down. That was really like Dumar's gift though. All those things that we were getting were his understanding though, and he wrote them down. So, by writing them down, then when he would sell it to us, right? We're kind of getting him to expound on it. Like, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? So he's never forgetting the build. It's why I was like, when I taught here, everything if I had a profound lesson that I taught and stuff, I would try to keep that and make that into a kind of a plus lesson. And that's what makes the plus lessons I give. You know what I mean? Those particular things that I think could be coupled into a whole segment, Yeah. But Dumar was a real master at that. Real master. We always know him as the national spokesperson though, but I think he would have been great just in the classroom daily. And a lot of times, like many times he would come into my class and I would just like, that's my break. Take a break.
Because he's gonna build.
But it actually goes into those things, right? And I would buy all of them, so I'd be like, oh, he's going into this one, He's going into this one, Like when he does the planet Earth, when he starts going 24,896 miles, and then he goes approximately 25,000. He had builds for each one,
right?
And each one would go into the
memorize it in his mind, like that's dope.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, I need to do, I can't do it like that. But whatever I do that's useful, I need to like write it down so I can continue to teach. You know what I mean? And that's why like for a lot of years, I would have like a plus lessons of my own folder. That folder's at home because I don't need to bring it. I could digitize everything.
Right.
But that's how I came up with that because of Dumo.
How much of that have you memorized?
I would like to think I memorized my whole,
Oh yeah, really?
all my plus lessons, you know, kind of. But no.
I mean, but do you perform them like that? Like
I don't know. I guess
this way you're performing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I keep it real. I've never taken the theater of it though is more subtle.
Right.
I think there's a theater to every great teacher.
Absolutely.
So I try to keep my theater a little different. If I have humor and stuff, I think it's more wry, I guess. You know, but I think I also I'm not saying they weren't though, definitely not Duma or something like that. But I keep it a little bit more collegiate, official. You know what I'm saying? I try to make it like that. You know? I found that like where my gifts suit me, a lot of people we're always taught to talk to the level of the student and stuff. But I'm a different type of teacher, and that's why I class many times with people, with elders that would be walking by doing the knowledge, because I have a tendency not to stay down. I have a tendency to go down and then pick them up. So I have a tendency to speak to them with a high language though, and then walk them through that language. You know what I'm saying? I don't want them to stay there. I'm going to use a big word, and then I want you to learn to interrupt me, to be interactive. I want you to interrupt me and ask me what these words are. I want you to expect that I'm using words that you should know and that you very well could know. I think to me, in my experience, it changes the student because they start to realize, well, you know what? I'm also can be in that cycle where I could get these high words, you know? So, you know, it's like, because look, the problem with people being students though is that you have to be comfortable feeling stupid. Like you have to actually go through a couple of lessons that you don't know anything that's talking about. Like that also happens with music. This is why people usually listen to bad music though. To listen to good music though, you have to actually listen to a lot of music that is said to be good, but you don't understand it yet. You know, so like with hip hop, most people, the reason today rap is like, you know, you kind of get all the lyrics pretty easily though. Even if it's heavy slang, it's so basic that you could memorize it and then figure out the slang because it's usually sexual or violent, right? Right. Or drugs. So it'll fit a category. You'll quickly figure it out sooner or later. They'll be like, hey, what does this mean? Oh, yeah, that means this. You can't say. You know, like you'll figure out that it's what explicit level it's on. But like for example, I never listened to actual lyrics of any kind. Love songs different, but I was always into ballads though, but like actual lyrics of songs, like songs that were deeper, shit like that. I never listened to lyrics. In if you watch children's programming or things like that, when they would sing a song and it would be elaborate stories or lyrics about stuff, I never paid attention to that shit. You know, even when I watch Mr. Rogers, he had they have stories in the lyrics. I never paid attention to any of that. I follow lyrics terribly. So, and I only started to listen to hip hop lyrics as in high school. Never paid attention at all. People be rapping and I'll be like, I don't know what you're doing. So you're intrigued by the rhythm more. Yeah, it was always the rhythm. Yeah, and in middle school, I was telling the guy King. In middle school, I didn't listen to music. It was only sports. I didn't know any songs, nothing. Like if you played EPMD or BDP, I'm like, I don't know what that is. Wow, really? Yeah, I didn't know anything. So you didn't start listening to hip hop until? I didn't really start listening to hip hop until high school. Yeah. And I didn't listen because I didn't listen to any music. Music was whatever was around me though. I didn't like, I want to hear this song. I never, you know. That's interesting. Yeah, it was not part of my life. For someone to pick it up at high school and then become like a writer of. Right, because you see people say, oh, I had music in my house. My father only played doo-wop. Only, that was it. So the oldie station, I heard Motown would creep in and things like that, and I love ballads. So that's like the love songs, because you know you're a young kid, you want to get with the girls and stuff, and love songs was like the best thing. What's better than a ballad in my head? Like I was like, I ain't gonna do no dance song, you know. I'm not gonna be dancing like Michael and shit, like, right? But in high school, that's when I started to listen. I didn't listen to shit, you know what I mean? But like, So that feeling of listening to things and other people knowing what it says, and I can't even make out the words, let alone know the meaning. I know what that feels like. So like when I go into other types of music, like I listen to a Thelonious Monk record that I read about was supposed to be great. Like let's say I read Brilliant Corners. That's what you start with Thelonious Monk. You're supposed to start with Brilliant Corners. I'm like, it sounds okay, but I don't see, and then it doesn't really have ballads though, right? So that's my trigger. If it's a ballad, I'm gonna see, right? It doesn't really have any, so I'm like, why is this considered so epic? You know, so I don't really understand. You know what I mean? And if you listen to Monk, I say Monk because a lot of stuff it says is very discordant.
Yeah, yes.
Right? So you're like, wow, he's actually sounds off. Like it sounds terrible. Like, right? So you don't know why.
Terrible, I mean, I know what you're saying.
No, like to the untrained ear, you don't know how much he's flipping it. And then what happens is that people generally don't listen to music for the art form. That's something that hip hop put out there very overtly to this generation. But people don't listen for like, oh, this guy, I listen to this guy MC because he's got such skill level. Like people don't, right? When you listen to jazz though, a lot of the jazz you're listening to is not per se for the song, but it's for the skill in the song, like a Coltrane. Sometimes you're not really listening to the song for that. You're listening to the song for the skill that he exhibits on the song. You know? I didn't know how to listen to shit like that. The same thing with reading books. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be able to read difficult books, you actually have to have a couple of moments where you read books you don't really get much out of. And how much metal, like the METTLE, how much metal do you have to get through things? You know what I mean? And then pick one that is a little bit easier, but not so, you know, because valuing the book you read is an exercise. It's one of the best, most important teacher activities a student does. To pick a book for themselves to read, you know? We usually pick stuff really, really easy. You know what I'm saying? And then we don't really go too much farther. You know what I mean? So that's the level. You know what I'm saying? That's why people get, when they do reading, they do simple reading. You know what I'm saying? So, like I got good at reading all types of stuff. That stuff that is easy for other people is very difficult for me. So like a novel is very difficult for me to read.
You probably get bored.
Yeah, I get bored. It's not a real story. It didn't happen.
It happens.
But like a real story, it could be the same story, but for a real person, real history, I'm in it. I'm all the way in it. You know, I read it much faster, even though it's more complex. You know, but the creativity is something I'm trying to get to, so I have to work at reading a novel too. You know what I mean? And I get through them though, but that's more hard work for me. You know,
so it's like a mental exercise.
Right, yeah. Right. So we always got to challenge ourselves. You know what I mean? So the student has to challenge themselves. You know what I mean? And some stuff that they think that they wouldn't have any fruit doing, though, they should try. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean try something that you totally hate the whole way. That's not the same thing. Like I have no joy drawing.
No, really.
I don't even like drawing with my daughter. Like I never liked and my other one when she was little. I'm like, this is so whack. Like I don't know what to draw. I don't know what to do. It comes out stupid. You know, and I'll draw if they're gonna indulge me and laugh at it, then I'll draw. You know what I'm saying? But it's I feel no creativity doing it. You know, I feel hindered.
No, it's interesting because I'm just like listening to like the evolution of Sunez, right? So going from not listening to hip hop to listening to hip hop to fighting.
But that's why, like, if high school is 1990 for me. First album that I bought 3 albums with my twin brother the first time. But the one that was the immediate classic where it was both musically and lyrically was Low End Theory. So that's the first time where I realized like I never heard something where both things were amazing to me. And that blew me away, you know what I'm saying? And as far as hip hop, I was in. I was like, everything has to be that epic like that, you know what I'm saying? And 1990, then you skip, and I said all this history in an interview, so it's fresh with me, but it's good to see why these things happen. 1990, and then I'm into hip hop, and then 1994, I published for the first time in college. So I'm writing about hip hop. So now I'm in a feverish thing where I want to write about hip hop, but I feel like I don't know enough. You know what I'm saying? I think when I started to write about hip hop in college, I probably had about 10 albums in hip hop, which even then is not that much. To me, I don't think it's enough. You know what I mean? Because by then I was just making positive. So like for certain albums, like I feel how behind the 8 ball. I'm writing, right? I actually don't have and have never heard. I heard all the songs because when I got it, I was like, oh shit, I heard all these. But I had never heard Paid in Full completely.
Oh.
Because I had never gotten the album. And I never noticed if somebody was playing the whole thing straight up. I never noticed. So right, Public Enemy, I never heard the whole album straight. And those have cuts that aren't really played in the street. So like you wouldn't know the way that they constructed the album, right? So all these things I was behind. So that's what set up like a feverish thing. At the same time, I'm in a Puerto Rican history class, and I'm embarrassed by the Puerto Rican professor because I'm coming in late thinking I'm gonna get an A. Like,
I'm Puerto Rican, man.
Right, I'm Puerto Rican. But as I go along with the class, so the opposite happens. I realized that at the end of this class, these white kids that had to take this class, and all the other nationalities, they're gonna know about Puerto Rico as much as I do. And that's embarrassing to me. I start to be embarrassed by that. That's how little I know. They'll know as much as I do. That's pretty whack. You know what I'm saying? Right? And because of the way he's teaching, my professor, this is my first mentor, Dr. David Traverso. He's a revolutionary. So he's one of the students that took over Colgate University to get Black and Brown, studies programs. So I'm being radicalized. Like I'm totally militant by the end of the semester. You know what I mean? And so I become outspoken, all of these things. He's the first person that makes me lecture in front of classes about hip hop the next year. You know what I'm saying?
That's an exercise in itself.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exercise within itself. You know what I'm saying? And so all of these things, they push me further to the knowledge, but but they also have me forced to be comfortable catching up with a lot of stuff that I have no idea or don't understand. So I thought the only way to prove that I understand is I have to understand all of the lyrics. By the time I catch up, people don't really do what I do. They don't write reviews where they quote that much lyrics like that. They don't write reviews where they describe the way the beat sounds. So like if you didn't hear the beat, you would be like, I would like to hear that beat. You know what I mean? Like they don't really describe it like that. Everything is basically temperatures. This is hot, this is cold, this is hot, cold. That's how people write reviews. You know what I mean? This is banging, this is not, this is, so it's basically temperatures. You don't really get descriptions of music. But as I went along, because I was trying to learn about everything, it's jazz writers informed me, not hip hop writers. I learned how to write about music from reading jazz writers. That's why I always tell people Baraka is really my model, But what I was saying was, if I'm seriously listening in 1990, by 1994, I'm writing things about it. 1996, I'm published, like out there, like getting paid in Vibe in 6 years. That's why when people go, you never wrote a rhyme. Why would I write a rhyme? I didn't even understand the art form to write a rhyme when I first started. And then now I'm interviewing people that are incredible with the shit.
So I want to get going.
So some G-Rap, Killer Priest, these are some of my first interviews I ever did. So why would I, after you talk G-Rap, you're gonna write a rhyme? You're gonna think you could rhyme? Like, nah, man. And then I would interview people that were local or just starting and stuff, but when they tell me their history, they're like, yeah, I've been rhyming since I was 7 years old. Like, they'll say some shit like that. I'm like, damn, I kind of didn't put the years in. You know what I mean? Like, why would I even try to do that? And I didn't feel all those years I was trying to change journalism to be a creative expression for myself, as opposed to doing other elements of shit. That's why I didn't try to rhyme. I was like, no, I'm gonna make this the creative outlet and have people respect it creatively. It's just that people don't know that because in all the magazines I was in, they wouldn't let me put that in there. a lot of magazines publish my work and erase the top.
Mm.
You know, so like if you notice, I put that poem on the top, or I have like the creative prose in the beginning.
Oh.
They would cut my shit off like frosting. You know what I mean? And a lot of my
Right.
pieces don't have the tops. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Or they have reworked and reworded middles. You know, because people, when you gave stuff to a magazine, they could change your wording, slice it, dice it. They don't send it back to you and say, oh, look, it needs to be 150 words, not 200. Can you cut it up?
Mm.
Now they cut it up themselves. So they cut it up with the way they think the voice should be. And now I read stuff that looks horrible to me. Most of the clippings I have from magazines, I hate. Because
You kept the originals.
No, I didn't keep the originals.
No.
These are the days of floppy disk, guys. That shit never kept my stuff. I lost so many things.
Oh, wow.
Man, you know the Peace Corps book I wrote is based on 2 major essays from 2003.
Mm.
That's the bulk of the book.
Mm.
You know, the Kind of Perfection, which I think is, which is what I thought of the idea because I was writing letters to gods, you know, like we all do, right? And I said, what would be the perfect letter to write somebody? All this knowledge of self. And that became that essay. And then the Blackest Pedagogy, the other one, is like what I intend my teaching reality to be. And so I kind of wrote my history. Publishing it now is kind of like it actually happened. But those essays, those things got deleted so many times.
Mm.
I wrote those. I remember once with the big, you know, you have the big desktop and stuff. I remember once when my oldest was little, she actually pressed the button off.
Oh.
God, I had to go into a different room. She was so tiny. I went into a different room, God. I closed the door and I just started punching things and so that essay, I think it came out so good because those pieces, because I had to start them over so many times. So many things that I wrote, they're lost. They're lost, you know? I don't feel no kind of way about it, though. I feel like all of that is bullshit, though. They just were like workouts, you know what I'm saying? But back then, you don't feel that way.
Right.
Right?
You got to do it all over again.
I do it all over again. It's just crazy, you know? But yeah, that was crazy, you know? Because this is why, like, me and Day Sun, we always related, like, if people see us, right, we're like yin and yang, you know, our temperaments, you know, but the way we live was so similar. We're there we're carrying notepads with us everywhere. You go to our homes, though, we have Post-it notes thrown everywhere, ideas everywhere. We wake up and there's pen and pad by the table. We wake up at night and we dribble shit, jot shit down that I'd wake up and it's like, I can't read it. You know what I mean? Like, or it sounds stupid, but what if I didn't roll over it, you know, and write it down? It could have been dope. You know what I mean? And we don't throw anything away because what if it sounds better later? You know,
that's kind of like when I would sample beats or sample
Right.
songs, and I'm like, after I sample it, it's like I don't like it. But now I have
right
with Logic, I have Apple loops,
Mm.
so I get to keep them. So I may sample it, but then like a few weeks or months or even years later, I may come back to it like,
You might figure out how to use it a better way, right? That's the thing, yeah. Because to me, over the years, like people say, how you write? To me, writing is like they're like puzzle blocks, God. That's how it looks like in my head, though. Pieces of, you know, puzzles. So they're like pieced together blocks. You know, this is why I don't write on paper well anymore. Because on the phone and definitely on the laptop, I could rearrange things easier. You know. So I don't know when people say that I only write on paper because that's a real writer writes. And I'm like, stop it.
Well, okay, so that's a great segue, right? Because look, I've been.
I'm the realest one here, like nigga, like don't tell me like the computers is no good to write.
Okay, so now I want to ask you because all right. I wouldn't consider myself a writer, right? But I have these ideas in my head, and I've been fucking with Chat GPT.
Okay.
And it's a very interesting tool. Now, further with it, now you came to mind because I know that you're a writer. You're really a writer, and this kind of, it's really like a cheat code in many ways. ChatGPT. I have basic ideas in my head of something, or maybe I have ADD that I might just go from one idea to the next idea, and I never really flesh it all the way out. Whereas with this, I could put in a few ideas, and it helps me flesh it all out. So I just wanted to know, like, what is your take on?
I never used it.
You've never used ChatGPT?
No, but I don't want to. I don't want. I don't want anybody to help me.
Okay.
Because part of the headache is putting it together. That's part of what makes it genuine to me.
Okay.
I need to put it together the way I see fit. Also, too, I see it the way, how I'm big on Miles Davis, everything. And Miles Davis, he used to diss Ornette Coleman, who, it's unfair because Ornette Coleman is great. But he used to say, like, he don't even know how to play right. How could he break the rules if he doesn't know how to play right? So I always see that, like, you have to know the rules so good that you could break them. So, like, I wouldn't want some type of algorithm that could try to figure out the way I'm breaking the rules.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't think that.
It's not good for that.
Yeah.
It's not good to, like, kind of.
Because a lot of things, like, when I write, though, autocorrect is horrible to me, especially on the text. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I need to break rules. I need to do it different. I need to, you know what I'm saying? So,
Well, I mean, I find it useful. Like for instance, I might have a few ideas for the treatment of a music video or something.
Right.
So I can just put in like a few ideas. And I don't maybe I might be a little bit too lazy to turn it into actual real treatment. I just throw it in there and it just puts everything in its proper. So, but what it's called now is more like a you would call it a prompt engineer. So what a prompt engineer, what prompts to put into it. You know how to guide the algorithm or guide the technology in a way that it actually responds to you the way that you want it to be.
That sounds so evil.
That's what I figured that you would say that.
Yeah.
It sounds evil, but it actually it's a very interesting tool. A very interesting tool. I mean, at least like I said, I'm not a writer like you. I don't have that discipline of writing in that fashion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it gives me like
I mean, I try to use tools like. I also think this is a thing I haven't said, but like, I think everyone should have a dictionary. It sounds crazy because we always say that, but like, not just an online dictionary, but an actual physical dictionary. You could use an online dictionary, but you can only look up words that you need to know. You cannot find words in a dictionary.
Right.
So like, it's good to have a great dictionary because sometimes I'll look through the dictionary just for words. You know what I mean? Like just the words that sound good or appeal to what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I love using acronyms. Like, not acronyms, but alliterate. I love to alliterate a lot of times where you're writing words in sequence, but they all start with the same letter. Or deeper alliteration where it's almost like the beginning rhyme, where like the beginning is starting out with the same couplets of letters. And like, for example, you would need a dictionary for that, to find those kind of words like that. You know what I'm saying? To look through the A's, the B's, And certain writers, I'm trying to remember his name. Ernest Hemingway, he wrote a book on writing, and he said this so like bougie, but he was like, if you haven't read the whole dictionary, then you're not a real writer. Like, he actually expects you to read the whole dictionary. Like, and for him, that's probably meaning knowing all the words. Like, so he saw it as like a field of operation. If you don't know all the words, though, how you writing? I haven't been able to read the whole dictionary, but I love that concept. Because now
Malcolm X read the dictionary.
Right.
According to the story, right? And his language elevated.
Oh yeah, enormously, yeah. You know, and of course, reading is the best cheat for that because you're gonna get words written in context, so you get it faster. You know what I mean? And of course, the digital books are better because you could have a library inside there too. You could write your notes in there, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of digital stuff that I love, but I don't want any help like that. Two things I use, right? Dictionaries, of course, though. If I write rhymes, though, sometimes I will use a rhyme dictionary. I will use a rhyme dictionary. Like I want to know everything.
So that's like almost the same thing then.
But it's like, no, because I'm still choosing the word. It's not being chosen for me. Well, there's a difference between a word being suggested for you than seeing a whole list of words that go. So if I open a dictionary and I say I want to alliterate with the letter B, then I'll be looking at, let's say I want it to be a BL word. I'm looking through the BLs. It's kind of the same thing. I'm getting an idea of words though. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes if I use a rhyme dictionary, I'm looking for a word, I may not even use that word though. You know what I'm saying? So it's just to see more choices and stuff. So the writer has to do all he can though to give himself more choices though. But my problem is the direct suggestion. Because with what you're saying is not only suggesting words, but suggesting style. Or being almost able to continue the style that you were trying to go for. And that's the thing. I want to be able to veer against whatever style I might be going with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'm just trying to think, because the way this artificial intelligence as is really like a collection of a whole bunch of different styles, and I think it recognizes that, and then okay, you're speaking like this. Okay, we're gonna continue to write like this. So it is very can be it's a little daunting.
Yeah.
But I was really wanted to come talk to you about it, because I know like you're against that. Like it's almost like
for a writer, yeah, I'm definitely against it. I think that I have so much stuff I've written. If I inputted it, it could probably make something that would sound like me. Maybe I would even like it, but then I would be mad if it came up with some shit that I would write. I'd be mad. You know what I'm saying? So then, why would I put myself through that anger?
Or better yet, let's say you take a paragraph that you've written and then you input it into it and you say, turn this into a three episode series. So that's what I find is useful at. You see what I'm saying? Like you can turn it, like, all right, but you got to know what to put into it. You got to know. You got to give it direction.
You could put things into a different format.
Right.
But that's part of the work, though.
Yeah.
And like that difficult brain work is stuff that I would like to do. You know what I'm saying? Especially on a creative level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think professionally, like if I was putting things in different professional formats,
Peace.
I would definitely like to use that, but not creative stuff. Peace is God. Everything is peace, God. Right. Talking about creativity, and one of the most creative walks in.
Peace already. Peace. How you doing? Yeah, I definitely want to get your take on this conversation that we're having on. I don't know. Have you ever messed with ChatGPT?
I have not, God.
I've been another part of purists, right?
You know what, God? Like honestly, I've been introduced to it. My cousin came over and sat with me and told me about his experience with it, right. And my black woman told me about it too. You know what I'm saying? And she had been dabbling in and using it to get a lot of things done. Right. I've been skeptical about that since it was introduced. But at the same time, I see some of the value in it. I see how it could be beneficial in certain regards. I just see a lot of things happening within the world that are making people peace.
Peace.
That's funny, right? Yeah. I put it in the front, the front table. Peace.
I see the world like kind of leaning too much on machines in general.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know,
but these are tools that
these are tools.
These are tools,
and
you can't get caught in tools like this.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's something that has benefits, and it's something that that also has setbacks too. You know, recently there's a couple of lawyers that got into some trouble because I think like they had ChatGPT prepare like their opening statements and things like that, and it causing some major problems in the courtroom. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say too much, you know what I'm saying, until I really get my hands on it to really utilize it. But so far, I've been a little hesitant. I got introduced to it, and I do see some of the benefits. Right. So, you know, when I get my second back online, my laptop, I might explore with it. But I'm also like in my head about actually having that presence like fixed on my devices as well. You know what I mean?
Well, I fucked with it, and I do see the value. Right? I see that. See, I'm not a writer though. You know what I'm saying? I don't come from that discipline of actually being, you know, like having that penmanship like that. But you know, I do have like a lot of ideas that flow through my mind, and sometimes like, you know, capturing those things and then fleshing them out might be maybe a little bit of a challenge for me, right? So what I do is I might take it, an idea, and I put it into it, and it'll help flesh it out for me. Like for instance, like let's say if I had like so I do a music video with you, right? And I know the lyrics, I know what it is, and I know, you know, okay, this is the idea, this is what I see. I jot those ideas now, and I could just put those random ideas and say, turn this into a treatment for a video, and it'll outline it for me. See what I'm saying? Like, so it's kind of like, you know, like it's a new term that's coming out called being a prompt engineer. Knowing what to, right, I'm actually right. So being a prompt, so you know how to
know what questions to ask.
Right. You know how to input the prompts. You know how to, so it's not like, I mean, it is doing something for you. It's a tool, but it's not doing it all for you. And you got to know exactly what direction you got to give the direction. You know what I'm saying? You're the
appreciate that, Aaron.
You're the founder of it, as opposed to it being the founder of you. You just got to see it that way.
I get it, you know, and again, I see the value. I know and understand that, you know, in a certain sense, this has already been done.
That's peace out to you. Look forward to hearing it.
For a long time now, just off of how we're using Google and things like that too.
Right. It's a glorified Google.
Right, so I see that too. At the same time, I see the value, like, if we had a project we're working on, a music video, just as an example, since you just used that, like one of the things that I've been seeing a lot more value in and being more grateful for is actually having a team, having a group of brothers and sisters that could do the same thing that ChatGPT might do, just with the human touch and with the sense of actually knowing me a little more personally, a lot more personally, to be able to really create what is needed, right? Because you know, and not to take away, and I think that tool, from what I've already seen, like it's extraordinary what people are doing with this tool on all levels. I've seen some really dope graphic design work. I've seen some folks use it to write books and do a couple of things too. I would love, yes. I mean, it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code. It's a huge cheat code. And that's the thing, all right, because as a creator myself, I'm working on a book. I'm working on a couple things. I can't see artificial intelligence. I can't see putting my ideas into that machine and make it come out for me. Like it's got to come. It's a certain kind of satisfaction and a certain kind of connection that I have with that story and me telling it. So you know what I mean? Like I'm still a little hesitant to use it in those regards.
No, I could dig it. No, I wanted to bring it to him, you know, because he's the purist.
I already know. I already know the guy.
He's like, nah, I'm not, you know, but you mentioned like some of the tools that you do use, right? And I would liken it to that as well. You know what I'm saying? Like it's similar to that, although it is a
well, like
cheat
this,
code.
for example, right? If I write a rhyme and I use a rhyme dictionary, right? I still had to figure out the first rhyme.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get
And
at.
I still have to select it and see how it goes because words could rhyme though, but they don't fit the flow either. Words that rhyme don't always fit the flow. Like they actually could fuck that up. So it's difficult. Also, too, like just the reason it sounds purist is, but people see me have all these books, so I've been writing this heavy for half my life. You know what I mean? So I put that work in though. Fuck. You know what I mean? You're gonna put something out that just punch this shit out. You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just terrible.
It could be that, but I think that like for instance, was like editing a book or something, right? Or editing something like how
Right.
do that?
But I get paid for that too. And people hire me to edit something to keep their voice. And if you got a machine that's keeping people's voices and shit, that's my job.
Yo, you see,
It's capitalism.
Nah, but like even with that, G, because it's like, you know, when you got to call up to deal with customer service, dealing with credit cards, different companies and whatnot, and you got to use your voice already, like to do that, like that's always been an issue for me. I much rather deal with a person. I don't like the idea that my own voice could be image or whatnot.
I don't like that either. I don't like
flipped and used,
right.
and it ain't really me, right? Yeah. So that's something that's always in the mind when it comes to this
intellectual property.
Right, God, right. You know what I'm saying? Because like we've seen a lot of stuff now where it's like, oh yeah, here go Biggie spitting Prodigy's verse or whatnot.
Yeah.
That's really whack.
I'm not really with that.
That's
right. With that, I don't care who's endorsing it, but I think it takes away from what was originally created, right? Yeah. And then look, the example that the God just used, where he's been writing and compiling his intellectual property for years, and the way that he writes is very unique, right?
Absolutely.
I could see maybe the computer being fed information so that it can mimic or create something similar. But look, he put in a lot of work to be able to churn out project like that. The more that you do a couple of push-ups, like the more you're able to do as you build your body. And it's the same way with what he's been doing with his craft and his art. So, you know, for somebody else then to just come along and then have this cheat code and then be I don't know, even made to look like it's an even playing field. Like that's not something that sits well with me.
Well, and I agree with that. I'm just saying as a tool, like so that all the work that you have, you can contextualize it a certain way. You know what I'm saying? In different ways. Like I'll say, well now you can say like, all right, well I have these poems, I want to put these poems into a book, or I want to do it this way, or I want to turn it into a movie, or you know, like you see what I'm saying? It's you can take the same
on the
thing.
Technical level, maybe, but on a creative level, I could never see it because even the transfer of creative. Because look, we're talking about making music after all those years, writing about this stuff here, right? That's what makes it more genuine to me. That I spent all these years around, like, you probably couldn't find another person that has ever made an album after being with that many artists. There's probably nobody in the world that has been around hundreds and hundreds of artists and then made an album. There's only a few. You know what I'm saying? There's only a few. There are a couple though. There are a couple, but not in this genre. You know what I mean? But the all of that particular work though gives me a whole. It's not just one style; it's many styles.
Yeah.
And then it's also the style that wasn't done yet, right? KRS-One shit, the style you haven't done yet, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so when I write, I could be going back and doing it the way I did it in 2000, or I could be doing it the way I did it in 2004. Like people will read, if you read the Peace Course book, right? You're reading the way I wrote builds in 2003, and then more creative builds in 2003. I don't write like that now. You know what I'm saying?
I think again, like in your case, God, is something really unique, right? Because even in today, like there are a lot of artists, up and coming artists now that don't really have a connection to the past. Just like all things, right? After a certain passage of time, is somewhat of a disconnect from the root. And so that then produces a different kind of art within itself, right? And so right now, being the fact that you spent so many years coming at this in a pure way and documenting and studying. That's why, like, and even in how you're describing what you're covering and what you're examining, like the depth, the detail, the different technical aspects of things. There are not a lot of people that look at it through that lens or study it in that lens. So that now, when it comes time for you to actually create and be a creator in that realm, like you're going to stand apart from somebody that hasn't been doing that kind of diligent studying and appreciating the art in that kind of way. And so, it's the same way where you got DJs they DJ for years and then they all of a sudden become a producer. They have a certain kind of ear for music, and so they shine. And so, I think that this is what also applies to you too.
Yeah. The experience of things, like, could never accumulate the experience. It's crazy. I am grossed out by it though.
No, I know you would. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying to consider it.
I would be grossed out if somebody took all of my books, funneled them into a program, and said this would be his next poetry book. And I would be
that's whack. That's
disgusted by how corny that would be. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just thinking no, instead of somebody else doing it, you being the engineer behind it.
Let me tell you how. If I wrote the way I write, you guys know me. If I did that, I put my works and said, make a poetry book out of all this poetry I have and everything.
No, I'm not saying that.
And construct a new one. Let's say I did it and I put it in there.
That would be kind of.
Then I would take that book though, and I would never publish it, but I would work and outright that book. And then that would be the whack book. Like, I still would be like, fuck you, and I would try to outright the book that was using my own shit. Like, I can't. I could never let it stand.
I liken it to like the Industrial Revolution, and as we know, at this point in time, there are a lot of problems that came out of that. However, it also sped up production, and I guess that's what this is. It's like it speeds up production.
Yeah.
There is a shift.
Absolutely.
A lot of things that's kind of fucked up.
When you talk about the Industrial Revolution, right? You can definitely see some pros and cons that came out of that, right?
Yes.
If we look at the realm of agriculture, right? Because the Industrial Revolution had a great impact on agriculture, right?
Right. Exactly.
So now, instead of people having growing food for themselves, then now this becomes a responsibility of a body outside of self. It's less control. You're going to have to accept what's given to you. And then you know what I'm saying, now you got to deal with greed. You got to deal with all the other things that come out of this too. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of pros and cons to really look at when it comes to all things.
Yeah.
So
what's interesting is that this whole thing, like, people think that it would help them, industrialization, it will help them do certain technical tasks and shit like that. It affects our people the most, though, because we're the ones that are more invested in the creative works. The creative works keep us alive, and the more that they dehumanize, and the more that they simplify. That's why when they see people like me, and they say, "Oh, he just wants to keep it real and keep everything right, and this and that," but we are actually devalued the shittier that music and the arts become. Because the easier it is to make the music in the arts, though, the more that we could be ousted on that and industrialized. And this is one of the biggest fields of operation that we have. Like, let's keep it real. Like, we're oppressed people. Our arts and entertainment, though, are a big part of our industry.
absolutely agreed.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? There's no way around that.
Agreed. But as the creators too, God, like, it's natural for us to shine in these realms too, right? And this is why, like, our people are always at the forefront of creation and all things, right? When it comes to the example we just used, talking about commercialization, right? Agriculture and farming became commercialized through the Industrial Revolution, and you know what I'm saying, we see the results of that all the way today now, dealing with genetically modified foods and all kinds of things like that. But we got genetically modified music because of the commercialization of this.
Absolutely.
Right. So it needs to be examined. We really need to take a look and see what it is that we're dealing with, and deal with a certain degree of control, right? Again, like, the pros though can't be ignored. On the way over here, I think I came across something, and it's not the first time where AI is being used to like translate text from like 5,000 years ago, some cuneiform and shit like that, right? So I'm interested to see what comes out of that. But then I'm also mindful of who it is that's creating this too, right? Because in the same way that we're using up the computer, we know that the person who programs the computer, right? Like what you're dealing with is their mind. They whatever's getting put in is gonna get spit back out, right? Yeah. And so that in the same way that eyes that are not ours can look at our history, look at writings on temple walls or whatever, and be like, oh yo, these people are worshiping deities with dog heads and hawk heads and stuff like that, and misunderstand that. You know what I'm saying? Like the same thing could be done, like
absolutely
as well. So you know, I'm watching and I'm being careful, like all things. I gotta know a lot more before I really, you know what I'm saying, could speak out a lot about it. And for me, it's still a lot to learn when it comes to this AI world. You know?
Yeah, it's a slow descent. You know, I'm saying that because like in the writing world, like I'm looking at the magazine. I'm in this magazine plug, but the magazines were always a problem for me because it was a conveyor belt. So if I hand you an article, the editor goes through one editor, other editor, and they put it into the sound that they think the magazine should have as a whole. That's why when you read any magazine, it sounds like one guy wrote everything. You know what I'm saying? And then only a certain spotlight column sounds different. But that's not the way it always was. Like important journalists, like I talk about Gay Talese a lot because hip hop took a lot of that. You know, in the writing, where he started contemporary journalism, where you would write your pieces about it. Like say we do an Omnip 07 feature, but back then in the days they would hang out with you for like a couple of weeks though to do the feature. So this feature is not like 5 pages though. This shit is like 10, 15, 20 pages inside a magazine. There's no way that you could sanitize a writer's voice. It's too many pages. It's too long, too individually experienced. You know, to make it sound uniform to the rest of the magazine. And then he would tell the story like fiction. And that was like one of his innovations and shit like that. Like one of his biggest articles was Frank Sinatra has a cold, because he had a cold when he was with him. But he was with him for it was like a 35-page article. You don't get magazines with a 35-page article.
That's a lot.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's enormous and shit. You know what I mean? So all of his biases, a lot of personal shit goes in there, even by default, because you're writing so much. But over the years, they continue to make it smaller, formatted. You do this, you say this, you cover these points, you do these things. You have all of these things. And then it becomes smaller, easier to read, smaller, easier to read. Everything becomes less, smaller, easier, and more compact. This section, that section. And pretty soon, whatever you give them is going to be sanitized into that. So it's perfect for this type of world, especially for the blog world, right? We're really in a post-blog world where people don't even want that, you know? So it just becomes crazier. Like what you're going to have is, why have actual humans say these things that are so sanitized when we could have robots, augmented humans looking, you know what I'm saying? Like you could have, holograms of humans just giving out this information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're real far right now, right? Because we even talk about now that they want to do like neural links and all this shit. Right?
Yeah.
So we kind of far, and this is why, like, even though for me, like, it's still an early introduction, you know, to this AI world. I'm no fool. I know that. I remember being a little boy in late night on TV. It'd be this show that would come on, MASH. You know what I'm saying? And it also was my advice and shit too, right? And the reason why I bring up those two shows in particular is because that's like when the first I seen cell phones, right? Like the military had cell phones way before the public did it. Like that was being used in the Vietnam War,
right? Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So the public got access to that in the 80s and such. You see what I'm saying? So we're being introduced to AI now, but how long has it really been?
And then
what's because of that? Then what's the next thing we're going to see? Since we already talked about neural links, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, it's like you know the art form, like it's like because hip hop, we talking about hip hop, right? And hip hop was originally an art form, but then it turned into a business.
Mhm.
So like talk about the music business versus the music art form, and we see that the business has damaged the art form.
It's changed the art form.
It's
How
changed.
a lot of people create.
Well, right. So that kind of like brings me to like the question about like like 'cause a lot of times you hear the term culture vulture, right? And well, from what I can see now, like the culture vulture is very much a part of the culture.
Oh man, I mean, hip hop is 50 years old this year,
Mm-hmm.
and really,
Even in the black community,
right? But like even like with just putting that under the microscope for us to take a look at it. The truth is that I mean, the history is even deeper than that, right? Than this 50-year mark.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, like as far as the business and execs being involved, they've been in it for a minute. So like the direction and like and how music is provided and consumed now, like that's been something that's been controlled for a little while. Like we've been on this path for a while, and that's also why like it's coming full circle now because it's interesting to see. Um, Now with like all the subgenres that exist, with how far we are, there's so many people now that actually see more value in the earlier forms of how hip hop was created and the earlier artists and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like even right now, it's dope to be seeing a lot of new artists taking songs from the '90s and then trying to flip it up.
So that's how we was doing, like
Right. But it's something that is that they are recognizing exists within this span of time that is not present today. You see that they want to tap back into, to give out or to give life again, right? Or to, develop self or the art form.
And that's really speaking to the true artists that are doing that, or people who are more art, have the mindset of art.
Sure.
As opposed to like I said, like the culture vulture, like someone like Leo Cohen or even like a Vlad TV or these guys. But if you look at the culture, right, or if you look at where it's at now, the business of it would the business of it be the same way without the culture vultures? They made it, or they take it into places where now we're making money off of it. We're not just enjoying it now; we're making money. Now it's a business.
I think without the vultures, without the people that have been benefiting from the negative aspects of this, if they were not present, I think it'd be a different landscape, a different world,
very
right?
much.
Because it's like if it's the same thing where if something doesn't belong to you, it's easy to take it for granted. If you ain't worked to create something, it's easy to not appreciate it and care for it the way that it should, right? Like you bring up Leo Cohen, right? I think that even him, right? Because it's often a question, why even make the devil, right? But like, yo, look, it was an interview where he got asked, like, about his involvement with the shit if he promotes, you know what I'm saying, some of the negativity and shit. He's like, nah. But then, I gotta feed my family still and shit, right? And so I think like that was a very important moment for like the world to be able to take a look at them, right? Because it's very clear that that the music is being weaponized.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you got to look at who's holding a weapon and who's getting cut down by the weapon.
That's very important, and that's why I say like that's where the culture, well, hip hop culture, that's where it's at now because it's being weaponized against us, and not only it's being weaponized against us because we've sold it to the highest bidder. Like you got that money for me? Well, I'll do a song and dance for you because you got that money, and I now got to feed my family. You see what I'm saying? Like so, and that this is what appears to appease the culture vulture who's going to take it and monetize it and turn it into. You see what I'm saying?
See, God, again, like like time is such a big factor when it comes to all of this too, though, right? Because after a certain amount of time, now that people are realizing the value and what was created like years ago too, and that it shouldn't have been given up for money, for whatever, you know what I'm saying, little amounts of money. And the pioneers didn't really receive a lot of money. They were exploited, and a lot of other folks got the money. You see what I'm saying? Um, and look, I'm gonna give you an example, right? Because as a little boy, um, I had a limited amount of toys because like money wasn't there like that for that. You know what I mean? Years down the line, certain toys that I cherish, and we have to make our own things too, right? Some of the things that we made, how we know, they could have been, and how we had the resources, we could have had some stuff on the shelf and made some bread off of that. But even aside from that, a couple of years ago, they put out this show on Netflix, and it's a remake of Voltron. I got the chance to introduce that to my children. Like, it was just so dope. I used to watch this when I was a little boy. I want to see what they do with it, right? And it was dope, with the exception of like one or two little things, right? But then what I opened up the door for is I went and I showed my children, like, yo, listen, let's look it up. These are the toys that I had a black line and this and that. What are they worth today? And when we did that, it's everybody like, hold up. We're going to have to move a little differently. So what I started doing with my children, like, all right, if we're going to pick up toys or anything, it goes something you could play with. But this right here, you're going to hold on to until you're an adult. And now you might be able to auction and sell it for X amount of bread, right? Same way with comic books and different things like that. Like hip-hop, the art form, so many different things. Like Biggie's crown was just, the crowd was made just was being auctioned for a lot of money too. That he wore that.
That was like a Burger King crown, right?
Yeah, like it wasn't something crazy, but under the right lighting and such, and because it was kept, it became something iconic, and it has value, way more value than it did at the time. You see, and so it's so much. What about the fur coat that Slick Rick first wore? That was somebody's grandmother's and all. There's a lot of different things, God. You know what I'm saying? That are really valuable. When we talk about the voice of our people, the minds of our people, our stories, it's all interwoven in this art form. This is something that years down the line, people could take a look at it and be like, oh, this is what was happening. This is where we were at in mind here and how we were living. So there's a lot of value. You can't put a dollar sign next to it.
Can't put a dollar sign next to it. You see, a lot of times we give it to the culture vulture, and so they can give us some, Federal Reserve notes, and then that goes into our discussion about capitalism. Like, we always, him and I go back and forth about, the science of capitalism, right? And capitalism and how destructive it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're saying like, there's money, like, well, peace. Like, can our culture, our expressions, our thoughts be monetized in that way? For Federal Reserve knows that. So let's say, so look at, like, let's say, like Def Jam. I always use this name. Def Jam was sold for upwards of, $700-800 million, right? So if somebody gives you $700-800 for your catalog, you're probably like, well, yeah, wow, like, right away. But then the size of inflation, that $700,000 this year could be worth, $1. You know what I'm saying? Like, with signs of inflation. So, and the value of what we give them continues to go up, but the value of what they gave us goes down.
See, and that's the thing though too, right? Because it's one thing if you say this is what
Right.
what I want for it, right?
Right.
Like, I have certain things that I'm doing, and because what I'm creating is of a certain value to me, I'm not putting out what I'm creating for 99 cents a download, like how a lot of people are doing it with their songs. You see, even though like the machine has been set up like this for a minute, it took time, energy, and a lot of money in order to to create it. So you know the sound, you know what it is, you know what I'm saying? And mixing it and mastering it and creating a packaging merchant, it takes a lot for somebody in my position alone to then turn around and just give it away for crumbs. You see, so it's a different thing where it's like, all right, now I recognize my worth, and I'm not gonna compromise that. You know, I know that. You know, could I use $1 million? If somebody says I'm gonna give you $1 million for it, I could use it. But I'm not gonna take that because this is worth more, and I know that down the line this is gonna be so much more. You know, like my great grandchildren are gonna be able to be like, yo, that's who my great grandfather was. Like this, how he saw the world, this is how he was moving through it. Like that's super valuable. I'm not gonna give that away. You know what I'm saying?
But a lot of times we do give that away.
Yeah, I'm not.
No, you're not doing it. I mean, because you got the knowledge of yourself, right? It's a lot of majority of people, 85%. They don't have that. Like I'm just thinking about different business models. Bob Johnson, Barry Gordy, Russell Simmons. They all sold their companies, and for this to have that foresight of, I could pass this down to my children. Now it's been weaponized in turn. We sold it to the highest bidder. It's been weaponized, and now we don't have control over it, and all we could do is boo-hoo about it.
Nah, and I refuse to take that position, right? Because for one, to address one thing, right? It's like it's a different time, and there are a lot of people waking up to this and taking more responsibility and ownership of what they create, including Bill Powers. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of folks that's like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna do a band camp. I'm gonna do my own shit so I can get more bread and not just have it out here like that, right? But then, in addition to that, I think that we don't have to just complain and boo about it. I think now is more the time where it's like, all right, you see it like I see it. Let's work together. You got 1,000 people that I don't know, and vice versa. Let's come together, and then now we can handle marketing and promoting and doing a lot of things that run this on. Right. But then it takes, you know what I'm saying, having a certain mindset.
It takes us coming together.
Indeed.
That's a sign that's
a huge part of it.
And a lot of times we overlook that coming together.
That's the biggest. I mean, that's the solution for most of our problems, guys.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. And we was adding on about this, the other day too, because again, like in our family units and just in our networks, it's like if you need an editor, if you need an accountant, if you need somebody that has experience in the medical field, if you need somebody that is an electrician, like it's all here within our families, within our cycles. So it's like, why go outside of that? Right. You know what I'm saying? If you don't need to. It's good to do trading. It's good to deal with folks. Like it's mad important to have connections on every corner of the globe, G. You know what I'm saying? But like it could still be us. It could still be family. It could still be our network in order to see success.
It seems like we don't. I'm gonna cut your wisdom, but it seems like we don't. That's a minority mindset, or the small, like the 5% mindset, because. Even like RZA just sold his catalog, at least from what I heard. He just sold like the catalog of the Wu-Tang to a company.
That until just now.
Yeah, see, I heard that. He did, right? Yeah. Right. So and Timberland, like, so this is like a trend. Yeah. Like you sell it like, I could get, like if I was on my own, right now it might make $100,000 a year per set, right? You know what I'm saying? It may make a couple $100,000, but I sell it to them for like $500 million. I just cut my time and have like, fuck it, I could just do it all over again. And that seems to be the trend in the mindset of people. You see what I'm saying? Like, so it's a multi-layered conversation and dealing with, culture vulture, how involved the culture vulture is, or how important the culture vulture is to the culture, like the size of industrial revolution, getting paid, or is it the music business, or is it the art form? Like what? Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to where you placing your values at. You know what I'm saying? As a people, as a collective. I mean, you as an individual, you have already decided, like, well, this is how I place my values. And I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna build with the guards about it. But not everybody has this.
For sure. And again, it's like We gonna have to see because time is gonna tell too whether or not those are wise decisions. You know what I'm saying? Like those brothers have already reached a certain pinnacle of success. They may have other things set up for what they're gonna do with it. Maybe they have plans to buy it back later on. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I just know that the people.
You think people want to be able to sell it back?
I know that it's never that easy.
It's never
that easy. But I do know that. What I do know is I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what's in their minds. I don't know what they have planned out. I know what I want to do, and I'm still developing certain techniques, certain strategies, certain things to do to become more successful and to reach more people. I also just see the value in connecting with other brothers and sisters that see it like me and are willing to do the work like me. You know what I'm saying? And not lose time. Dealing with folks that don't. You know what I'm saying?
That's important.
You know what's interesting is that when Fidel Castro talked about the foundation of how to change the whole society, he's very similar to us in that he was saying that education was the main key and that culture was to change education to change the culture. And if the culture of the people was right, because of the knowledge, they would live the right way. And that was the two principles of our supreme math, right? I always look at things from the vantage point of my own self. So most media, when they wrote critically about music, they always criticized the record labels, things that weren't them. But I always felt it from the angle that I was at, or what I wasn't seeing. I think that in general, not just music, but everything, our youth, this generation, and as it continues to grow in our age group too, because it's really our age group fucking up too. There's no education and appreciation of the worth of creativity. And I say that because that's kind of like, that's really the work of what a music journalist is. It's music appreciation. People think it's diss and whack songs and shit like that, but that's only to equalize. Well, you like that bullshit though. Let me tell you why that's fucked up, so that way you can understand how dope this is. You know what I mean? So if you see some idiot, if someone hears Kenny G, it sounds nice to people, but then I have to tell them like, this is some bullshit right here. I'm gonna show you about Coltrane. Like, I'm showing extremes here, but like, we have to dumb down and we have to show where Kenny G really is to show you how dope Coltrane is, or else you'll never appreciate, right? Mm-hmm. The youth don't have any appreciation of our creativity, like the depths it goes to, how difficult it is to create the work. Like, what's the right if there's no hell in it? Because when I teach Love Hella Right, I always say it's work. It's not outside. So most of the build in Love Hella Right is outside of ourselves, and I've always disagreed with that because there's no mystery God. And we already decided in the 10th degree not to wait for a mystery God, and that there is no mystery God, so how would the hell be something imposed on us? So I always like to look at proactively, what's the hell that we go through? What's the work? And the work you go through to do something great is some crazy shit. Like, you can make some insurmountable shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you say, I'm going to write all this and shit. You know what I mean? Like, what could be the next thing? You know, like, when I wrote, I didn't go out and say, listen, I'm going to write about fucking 400 records in a year. Nobody would say to do that. But I was like, yo, let's try some crazy shit. That's what I think people need to know. So a little bit by little, I took it like, small pieces of a mountain and shit like that. Now, by the end of the year, that first time I did it, that shit was, I was killing myself. I was listening to music all night. Then I had to like detox listening. I listened to other music to detox the sound and shit like that, right? Then go back and keep going, right? And by the time I hated music by the end of that first book, right? But the thing is that like, I think that the education is off, right? We're not teaching people what creativity really is, and that creativity is a value of the work that you put in to make something that, to the best of your ability, expresses you so uniquely that it doesn't exist prior to you making it. You see what I'm saying? That you put that much work into it. And then for the person that already creates, so that omnipotent will make something that didn't exist before from his own work. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like now creativity is The guy that makes a lot of shit though, he'll just make the same type of shit that he always made because people fuck with that.
Mhm.
So and look, that's most fans. They expect the same type of shit.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I made this album, I'm not saying that I'm nowhere near incredible MC, but there's no way I said shit on that record that anybody heard before. I made sure of that. But the first thing I heard that was kind of a naysay thing or a surprise that people said was like, you said it like a compliment, 07, right? But some people said like, you know, like it's so many different styles that you did. I didn't know.
Mm.
Like they didn't know I was a human, that I had all these ideas. So it's like we like things the same way. We want a certain, you know, like you're supposed to give us a flavor and then we get strawberry for the whole album. You know, we get vanilla for this whole album. And that's not creativity. That's not creativity at all. You know, it's funny that 07 is here because he has fucked with me in many years, rhyming dope on beats that I wasn't so heavy on. You know what I'm saying? And I would have to be like, oh, well, I like it when you do it. You know, like because I wouldn't like it if anybody else did it. But then it showed me the MCing prowess, like the ability of the MC to make a complete song. You know what I'm saying? It changes the parameters of what making a complete song is. So now when I write about it, I have to talk about these sensibilities and how they got erupted and destroyed. You know what I'm saying? And then the people that read it get an idea about creativity, but it's about teaching creativity. This is why this is so important to me, because if we're teaching people, I'm not teaching anybody to be God or earth. They were already naturally that. But the activity to be that is like, yo, be creative. You have to be creative somehow. How could you be creative? Then if somebody engages though, right? If I make them engage in assignments, creative writing, write some poetry, they think it's bullshit, like it came out horrible, they'll never write in a journal and be honest though, come up with new words because they can't describe what they live today and they want to. Now it means something. And then now when they do something that has nothing to seemingly do with creation, I don't know, architect, something else, right? They create parameters that didn't exist. That's how we create a world. So the world that they create that isn't considered creative though is being created, right? How do we change this building, right? How do we finally do something that we've been trying to think of, right? Because there's a lot of ideas that are great, but we never seem to blend them together, right? Like it's like, yo, dealing with law school is like dealing with unified theory, right? We're trying to look for the unified theory in the universe. And gods have the gravity, they have this, but they don't put it all together and shit like that, right? But these are the assignments of creativity. Yes, we could input all of the squares and figure out the Rubik's Cube for us, you know what I mean? But that doesn't give you the work. It doesn't give you the work.
It takes away from the journey.
Yeah.
It takes away from the journey.
And the work is important.
Right?
Yeah.
Like my little one has like the smaller Rubik's Cube. And she was like getting frustrated. And I said, you solved the problem the way you want it. She was like, she goes, can I have your phone? And she immediately YouTubed, how do I solve the Rubik's Cube? Right? So, but it was so funny because it didn't have a guide with the actual block. And he said, do this, that, and then you have it here. He basically gave a series of moves. So you still have to learn the patterns that give you stuff.
She just try to
so now she's they don't make it like that no more though. That's why.
Oh wow.
So when it's all plastic. So so it's embedded in there. You can't do it. You know what I mean? So I said it's the idea of every now and then picking it up and messing with it to challenge your brain. Like it gets you sharper even without knowing. And like this is how you develop creativity. You know what I'm saying? And we don't do that. So like a lot of times in the classroom, I spend a lot of time having people notice the challenges of creativity, because like you asked me about the album. there are a lot of frustrations because the hip hop song, right? That shit has so many limitations compared to the paper. You know what I'm saying? I'm confined to a music. I have to be in tune with the music. I have to go with the theme. Let alone chorus though. I can't even do a chorus though because choruses are evil and you know what I'm saying? And then I have to make it catchy. That's like I've been writing against catchy things my whole life, and then I have to do. Yeah, so I was like, come on, you got to do the chorus though. But he still forced me to try to do choruses. So there's a lot of songs that don't have my chorus though, but like he forced me to do them. So like the Our Sword is the last song on the album. That was a chorus that I wrote, but it didn't come out right. But it had the nice words though. And then he fixed it and it made it to a chorus because I was like, fuck this. And I was like, I do the whole thing and I was like, fuck this guy. You're the chorus master. You do it. But like, that was the whole thing, the creativity. I create a lot of shit, but I realized like, yo, the exercise of doing this now puts me in another realm now. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's what the children need. They need these challenges of creativity. You know what I'm saying? If they get it like where it's homogenized and shit like that, like if they get used to a homogenized sound and shit, like a lot of the kids now, they appreciate the arts by the result of the art, not actually the art. You know, it's like, not to sound like an old man, but like we appreciated the enjoyment of the art. So like we'd be to walk into a cipher and hear like brothers rhyming in a cipher and they have to make it up and we're having fun with that shit, right? That's an example of that. It still goes on, but that's an example. Whereas now it's more about what happened with the art. You made this and now you blew up. You made this and now you're here. You made this and now you're here. So it channels off to other things. So if they want the culture vulture Vlad, it doesn't matter what Vlad does. That's devilish. In the end, though, it's like he still has the numbers. So the artist, even that craves creativity and has respect to creativity, will still go on that shit 1,000 times. I'm telling you now, they'll still go on there 1,000 times because he has reach. So the results of the work are more respected than the actual work itself. You know what I mean? So this is
what he's doing and how.
Oh yeah, how he gets there, shit like that. You know, it's Machiavellian. You know, in that sense, yeah. Machiavellian.
He's established himself, guys. So there's a lot of people that have made them a part of their everyday life.
Yeah.
You see that also becomes something great. On the flip side of things, though, what you're talking about, like some of the feedback that you got. Now you got to remember too, right? Things that are innovative, creative, and ahead of their time, like they aren't always immediately received well by people. Sometimes it takes people time to digest it, to look back and be like, oh shit, this was dope. And we have countless examples of that, not just in hip hop, right? Just in all areas. And even myself, right? We started talking about AI. I found this Time magazine cover. And it was like, yo, here, the introduction to the computer, the computer's here. Because I when you first arrived. Like, you know, everybody ain't have a computer in their house. Right. Everybody got a computer in their pocket, right? Yeah. Hey. So it's like, you know, a lot of folks are apprehensive about that at first too. Right? So it's also understanding that too. It's going to take a certain time for certain things to be understood and appreciated. And it's just important for the things that are most valuable not to be devalued. When you talk about that human component, for years now, we've been taught to appreciate a devalued form of human expression, right? And I'm gonna show you a clear example, right? The auto-tune, right? The auto-tune took it so, and not to take away, that's a tool that's helpful, but you know, you have incredible singers in the past that, you know, they train themselves, they have vocal coaches, they did what they needed to do to become like the best, even with the natural talent that they had. But then now if you make it so that anybody that has not done that kind of work to develop themselves, you could just put them in a booth and push a button and that's done. Like that takes away, you know what I'm saying? That takes away in a certain way from,
you know, I have a thought on that, right? What's interesting you say that is the perspective of things, right? There's a great jazz writer. He's a great jazz writer. I have his books. Ted Jiwa, right? And he also makes music. So these are people I thought of when I was like, I should make music, you know, because he writes about music, but they also make it. There's a lot of people like that in other genres. But Ted Jiwa had an article he wrote on his Substack about how one of the problems with music today is that people want it too perfectly done. And remember, the auto-tune was a machine to make your notes at the proper place. So you would never have a Mary J. Blige again. Like, you know, people that hit peaks that are incorrect, you know what I'm saying? And notes that are off, you know what I'm saying? Right? So you never get like Keisha Cole the love song, you know what I mean? Like, right? Because she's off in that song when she hits a peak, but that's why we like it so much. She's off, right? So in trying to have music have such perfect beats, everybody sings like that. So when you hear an auto-tune song, technically all the notes are correct. It sounds fucking horrible to our ears, though. Right? It sounds synthetic and shit. But none of the notes are actually wrong in the auto-tune.
The fact that it's not pure, the fact that it is synthetic, you know what I mean? Like, you know, for those of us that have those kind of ears, and it's like, you know,
Right.
you're not gonna latch on to it in the same way. Like somebody like Jay Dilla.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like now, you know, like, cause even for me, it took a period of time where I went back to be like, oh shit, I get what he was doing and why he's
right, because as an MC, right, you must have heard him off because he puts the break is not it's off.
Yeah, mad shit.
Yeah.
He was never using no quantizer.
Right,
It was just natural, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If it's human error, that's what it is. And really ain't really an error, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's perfect within itself. Even like with the ideas and concepts, I was like, why is it donuts? Right? Why is it donuts and shit? But it's sweet loops, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, it's that human ingenuity. You know what I'm saying? That taking things from the mind and opening up the door to bring it into the world and make it grow. Like, you know, it's something that that's something that only we really have to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's what here, you know?
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace, y'all. Peace. My degree day today.
Oh, praise God.
Well, I'll build with y'all. Yes, this might be long distance, but I'll build with you.
Okay, God. That's praise God.
Yeah.
Yeah, G. But again, it's like, you know, with the passage of time, you know, people are going back.
Not bad for God to understand it, right?
Oh, no. Supreme, God. Supreme.
Peace. Oh, wow. Yeah, right.
Yo, you know, G.
Peace.
God. Right here?
Yeah, I'm going.
Oh, I'll let you know,
God.
God. Next week, I'm not going to be here. So even if I teach, if anybody comes, I probably will not teach at all, online or anything. So next week, I will not be here.
So we not be telling.
Yeah, so, yeah.
You on a week vacation?
Yeah.
Yo, it's good seeing you, bro.
You do
Peace,
that.
James.
We'll call it
Well,
that.
we good you. What you trying to say?
We'll call it a
We're on
vacation.
vacation for a while. So you be back.
Right. Oh, man. Yo, just to say, because it's a beautiful story, it's one of my favorite things that has happened this year. Probably my favorite thing that has happened this year. More so, God, than making this first album, right? I told my little one, right?
Peace, Sunez.
Peace, God.
I see
You
you.
and I
I see you when I see you.
So, my daughter, right? She'd be picking YouTube channels that are just goofballs. They love goofballs and repetitive goofballs and the thing. And it's annoying because we spent our whole lives trying to watch all these great cartoons, and now we have the Disney app, Netflix, we can watch all of these things, but they choose stupid YouTube videos. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, listen, I said, you're gonna write me something and explain why this is valuable to you. And she didn't do it, right? So I said, hey, how come you haven't done the assignment yet? So she said, okay, I'll do it. But I can't do it like that. I can't write it. I'm not going to write it like that. I said, what you mean? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do it. I want to write a song. I said, no, you got to write an essay. I said, no, I want to write a song. I said, oh, you want to write a song? And I said, okay, all right, write a song. And so instead of doing the essay, she still got out of writing the essay. So I didn't take note. But she wrote her first song. And it was answering to why she liked Janet and Kate, these little twin girls that play video games. Because kids like watching the video game.
Yeah.
Kids watching other kids play video games.
Wow.
So she wrote a song about how she wanted to be like Janet and Kate, and it had a loop, it had a bridge. The lyrics had loop, it had a hook, it had a bridge, and everything. It had high notes, everything.
Wow.
It bugged me out because everything that I've been like just saying, because I be playing music all the time and just talking shit about it, just because like I'd be on auto lecture just saying like, yo, you don't hear that? Wait, and I'd be rewinding things. I don't care if they hear it. I don't care if they get it. I just won't talk about this shit, right? Because I get to control the music, so I get to do whatever I want. She absorbed all of that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna play it later for you because then I had to record another song. She wanted to record one. I said, you want to record that one? She wrote another song. And I be talking about bees all the time. Don't be scared of them. They're beautiful, this and that. She wrote a song about bees. You know what I mean? And it came out dope too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I filmed the recording and everything, you know? But it's like it was so dope because she told me something. She's like, the whole premise of what I've always been trying to do is to try to have people find their creativity to answer to things. And she answered me defiantly, but with creativity. You know what I'm saying? And it was dope. You know what I mean? And I made her practice it and shit like that. So like when I did the first duck down dive, before I recorded it, I said, listen, you go outside and you practice. And after I record this and get the right take.
Oh yeah, we were speaking that day.
Right. Yeah. Right after, then I did that. And then that was that day, yeah. So, you know, it was crazy. It was crazy.
You access to express yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was just dope. But that was the highlight of the year. I made a whole album though, but that was the highlight of the year.
Seeing them be creative.
Right, but that's the whole thing though. And to me, our job though, this is why the nation is birthed through education. Our first institution is school, education. If we don't teach people to be creative, they can't value creativity. They can't value creations. They can't value the creator. You know what I'm saying? And the mystery God only helps be out of touch with creativity. You know what I'm saying? Because that's something that the mystery God makes. You only need to be creative to get the results out of it. And then if you tap in, people that are creative, though, they continually give the credit to the mystery God. Mm-hmm. I just tapped in and shit like that. I just tapped in. And to me, that's the biggest bullshit because you're actually going through a specific mode to get into the vein, to that zone, And there are books, there's actually very old books I've collected. Like books when you collect them and they're mad old and they're out of print and shit. about sports, not about other shit. But there are a lot of books about the science of sports and the zone. But that shit is universal, the zone. Because I know you've written things. You had to have written songs that you were in the fucking zone. You know what I mean? That's mindset song, definitely the zone. And you with the beats, there's beats. I'm just like, yo, he's in the zone. And the zone is something where you're thinking, you're so in touch with what you know. It's really a fabric of what you know that you're ahead of what you're going to do with it. And so everything is coming together. All the pieces are coming together. In sports, you see it because like a Jordan, first of all, he practiced so much. He's so in shape. He's such an exceptional athletic figure. But then now he knows exactly what he's going to do. So his choices are ahead of everybody else's choices. And he's athletic enough to make the choices before someone else does. So now he's in the zone. It's some ill shit. So the zone is really a mindset and shit like that. That is, it's basically the thought process just moving faster. And so you feel like you're moving faster. It's crazy.
Yeah, so much so sometimes that it's like it's automatic.
Yeah.
Comes out.
Right. And when people get into a zone, they're constantly recreating it, but then they go, it's the mystery God. And that's why, like in history, of course, too, most of the people that create art, they're dying of drug use and things like that because they think that that's how you get into the zone.
Right.
You have to tap into that and shit like
drugs. So the drug becomes like a mystery God as well.
Yeah. But to me, we mentioned Coltrane, he's the greatest example of how that zone shit is all bullshit with the drugs. Because if you compare Bird and Parker, they were two obsessive musicians. They were obsessive. But Bird was always, he couldn't stop with the drugs. And that was obviously a part of the zone. But Coltrane got off drugs. He actually was doing drugs when he was with Miles in the beginning. And then he detoxed. But that's when he became a beast. So it was the obsessive practice and shit. We were saying he was training like 16 hours a day, they were saying. And just playing that much and shit like that. You know what I mean? And there's jazz records similar, but there's no records of jazz that are like tour de forces like that. Where you just hear a guy going nuts for like that long continuously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, drugs. Drugs, right now, especially like with the youth, that's like something else that really needs to be looked at too. You know what I'm saying? Because it's
being glorified in the music.
yo,
It's
man.
weaponized.
And see, that's the whole thing, right? The drug, you see it, it's a very big change the last couple of years, right? In arts and music too, because drugs are always cool to do like musicians did, but you always knew that musicians did it to do the art, right? You excused it like they do it to do the art. But nowadays it's like, it doesn't matter though. That music is so shitty, it doesn't matter if they were high. They could do it anyway without the music. The music now is an ode to the drug, which means that the music could be made just in thought of the drug.
But also too, like the drug has become has made to appear as if it's part of the culture, and in some contexts have, right? But like if you think of lean, there's a specific region that you think of.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And
some of that is our fault,
and that shit is common,
right?
Sure. I remember the first time I heard, I can't remember the first time, I remember sipping on some scissor when that came out. I remember, folks like dabbling in that ecstasy when, you know what I'm saying, folks started talking about it and seeing like their favorite artists or whatnot doing that, but then again, like, it's like the focus has been put on that so heavy over the last couple of years, including by artists that ain't even using them.
I'll say this though, people, I probably get more trolls though, because people love it. But I give a lot of that credit. Negative credit has to be given to weed. Absolutely, 100%.
So weed.
You said like
this is what I said.
A gateway drug, basically saying?
No, not for the addictive qualities or anything like that, right? Because I personally don't think weed is super healthy, right? It has its drawbacks. But what I'm saying is the weed, hip hop rhymed about weed, and one of the reasons that they said we're gonna keep talking about this drug because it stops us from glamorizing the other drugs. That was a real thing because cocaine was heavy in the beginning of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Coke was heavy and all that kind of shit, Curtis Blow, shit like that. Like that was part of the thing because they had never seen shit like that in those ciphers. And of course, coming out of the clubs though, you had the two musics in the clubs though. If you go uptown and stuff like that, you had salsa and then you had disco coming in the club. So those are coming with certain drugs and shit, right? But the argument that they would give when they would be asked though would always be like, well, we're advocating this one and to say it's safer than other drugs. And in many ways it helped because you don't have a lot of drugs though. You don't have a lot of songs though that just compared to what hip hop could talk about, right? And how much they drink it. You don't see like odes to Hennessy like for whole songs, can you can think of lines, but you can't think of like the Hennessy song, this song, right? But we can think of How to Roll a Blunt. Cypress Hill has a multitude of legendary songs, right? Hits from the bong, all this kind of shit, right? 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 They made the bong incredible. Like, if you didn't know what it was, you were like, what the fuck is a bong? Right? They made the bong a beat that shit sounded fire, right? The shit
But the scissor, or you said scissor, it comes from, it's a child of that, basically.
No, a child of all the weed stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because then it became something where it was like glory to the weed and there was worship of the weed.
I don't think that
you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that as someone listening to it who doesn't smoke. And when I cover it though, I'm like, yo, there is a worship of weed. You know what I'm saying? And it was only going to be a matter of time before somebody and labels could redirect it and say, well, what about our drug that we're peddling? What about our fucking drug?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So when they do it though, it does do that. When they say, listen, we need to get Hennessy written more on these things. We get to say, when Hennessy got Hennessy got a GOAT candidate to talk about it in a calm, cool way. Because remember now,
indeed,
right?
We had Pastor Cavassier. We had Pastor Cavassier. It was a lot of songs.
Right.
Like, and alcohol's always, you know what I'm saying, in the forefront and being sold. Hip hop's being used to sell alcohol for a long time.
Absolutely.
But I think when you look at cannabis, God, what I'm saying? We look at weed for the longest time because that shit just became legal, right? And it's even still in certain pockets is not. It's more like the rebelliousness of the people, like the nation. Like, yo, why is it that this is illegal? Why is it that this is? You know what I'm saying? We being arrested for this.
That
When
too.
things like
Right.
alcohol are being sold openly and cigarettes and other things like that.
Right, and that
So
was
it's a
right.
certain
That was
kind of
that was
consciousness,
especially Cypress Hill, right? Because remember in that, if you remember, their liner notes used to have like facts about like from Black Sunday on. They used to have facts about about weed and shit like that, and they were they were the ones that were very articulate about it. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is like even if it had good things, it gets bastardized too. And that got bastardized as well because you could just flip it to a different drug. So I'm not saying it's an absolute gateway drug, but I'm saying as far as the way marketers think about it and shit like that, because people forget like record labels actually absolutely 100% ask about particular topics. They ask artists for particular topics. You know what I'm saying? I was at labels where they asked them, where's the song about this? And why are you putting songs about this in there? You know what I'm saying? They ask about the topics that they want, Just like when we go in the news, we get given a piece, so we're being told what type of questions to ask to the person, From the 2000s on, we would ask them about this beef, ask about that beef. From 2000 on, though, that was the way you got a mission, What's the angle here? What's the controversy? You know what I mean?
Again, the music business and then the art of
the
music.
Yeah.
So the music business in many respects have diverted us away from the art form.
And that's why I always hated, and I always say this whenever I get a chance. I always hated the big, exceptional. It is exceptional. 600-page plus history from Dan Charnas about the business of music, because the whole framework is like we should be grateful that it was actually monetized. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never ever admit to that. I'll never admit to that.
Could he be another culture vulture? We don't want to answer that, right? We don't want to.
I'll let the people read it for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And see it for themselves. You know what I mean? But it's
somebody
like,
who's not a part of the culture, writing or benefiting from the culture.
And again, these are people that were writing in this shit longer than me. Dan Charnas was in the Source magazine in his very beginning.
Yeah, but and that begs the question, like the importance of the culture vulture. But even going back to like the NAACP, because it was some Jewish folks that like, oh no, I'm gonna get down with this.
Well, it was founded by Jews.
Right.
Yeah.
So
at the end again, God, it's like the maker and the owner. Right? And if we not owning our own creations, that's going to be a fundamental problem.
And that's what Bill got, because I always say in knowledge degree, I always ask, why is that separated? People assume the maker is going to be the owner.
Well, it's clear.
You have to do work to own what you make.
Oh, see, that's heavy right there. Yeah.
It's the maker, the owner. So people are like, I'm the maker though, but you're not the owner.
You don't own it.
That's
right. And that's what's beautiful about making music now, because people though, no matter how difficult it is though, you actually can own your music. You know what I'm saying? Like I was able to make things I own. You know what I'm saying? Like I have folders, God, somewhere with tons of rejection letters from books I've written. I've been pitching books to publishers since '95. That was one of my first assignments from my mentor in college. Put that in a book, and he showed me how to do an outline for a pitch and everything. You know what I mean? So I kept it though, just to ignite, and keep the fire burning, and wrote tons of shit. You made a lot
of contributions over the years, G.
I still don't think somebody would publish my stuff now if I gave it to them.
I mean, you know what, God?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
But it goes back to like that point of being the owner. I would say it takes work to be the owner, but a lot of people don't want to.
Right, they don't want to do that.
They want to do that work. They actually want to get paid.
If we don't teach children that creativity is a form of actual work with actual art, it's work to get out the art, then they'll never really do it. You know what I'm saying? They'll never really do it.
We're talking about responsibility. All of it is responsibility. Part of stuff, I gotta see if I can catch my babies real quick. Going on inside.
That's peace, guys.
Yeah. wanted to make sure I kept my word and came through to see you.
Always, God, always. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, from that. You
already know. You already know. It's long overdue.
Yeah,
Long
yeah,
overdue.
yeah.
I left you a couple stickers right
Oh,
there.
yeah. I got that right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hit me up over the next couple too, so come by and bring bread.
Peace.
You know, peace. You know what you know. You too. Try to save the name.
Indeed,
You
God.
know, to the family, I love you. You know what it is.
Likewise, God.
I built you up over the next couple.
Indeed.
Peace out.
Peace, God. I said I'd be here for 2 hours. I always go over.
Okay, you about to wrap it up now?
Yeah, let me see what's in. I saw a lot of people say good stuff. Interorientation, that is a word that's in old sociological text. So you got to look deeper into sociological text for it, though. But it does exist, that word. And I agree with Indigo. We have to use other tools, but not AI, she said.
Interesting about that word interorientation is I looked it up and
Oh, thank you, God. That's peace, God.
Yeah, God, there's a lot more on the way though. I mean, yo,
I'm still got. I got something for you though. I'm gonna record it soon.
check out the appreciate you.
No
Check
doubt.
out the site over and get a chance.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I have it saved. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'll need some feedback. I'll
Right.
let y'all later.
peace.
Peace.
No, God, that interorientation. Now, ChatGPT or artificial intelligence hasn't caught up to that. Doesn't even know what that is. Like, I don't understand. So in essence, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you can't. Just like belief and faith, you can't rest your knowledge on belief and faith. You can't rest your creativity on AI.
I got you.
As I see it.
Yeah, it seems like they make things now people to get out of creativity as opposed to be more creative, and that's what I mean, you know.
Well, that's you know, you raised an important point. You know, when you was mentioning about being a maker, and then and
The owner, yeah.
And
So
owner.
we have to look at now like when we have knowledge of self, we're not the owners. So this is the work to be done to fulfill the reality of the knowledge degree too. You know, so some of the 120 is not what we just are, but what we will be. Because owner is an active thing. You're not just born that. You have to actively own it. You know, like we made the whole universe, but you have to actively own it. You know what I'm saying? Right. And without knowledge of self, you've just been an absentee landlord.
Absentee landlord. Oh,
Right.
Without the knowledge of self.
And with that said, I'm gonna let everybody go here. I'm gonna put my email. By the way, that was 07 who was in here. I'm gonna write his name. He's an MC. He's a great MC. Look him up. Let me see if I can pull up his website. I'd like people to see. Put it in the chat. 07 space. Put it in here. That's my brother. I'm gonna be on one of his songs. He's great. He's been great for a long, long time. Indeed. Here's my email as I let everybody go. All right, I'm gonna say peace here. Until next time. All right. Peace.